I'm not nervous, I'm not scared. For the first time I'm aware, my eyes are open, I have awoken, now I'll follow you. Now I fall into my knees, but as I kneel I feel the breeze. And I will waste no time in saying you've made me realize that all this time I've been drifting.
What's going on, people? Welcome to 137 Works, and today we have episode 2 of the Drift Lounge podcast. Today I'm joined in person by my buddy Declan. I have mentioned him many times. You actually pop up a lot now that I think about it. You pop up in my videos, and whenever I talk about the old Forza days, like, you're literally one of the first names. So if you're like a long time subscriber to the channel, you will have heard of Declan without a doubt. But basically, Declan Byrne, Irish. You're now in the pro series, is it?
Yeah, I'm in the Pro-Am series in, it used to be called the Semi-Pro series in the Irish Drift Championship, but now it's just called Pro-Am. It's just to make it sound a bit more professional, I suppose. But yeah, that's what I'm in now, yeah. But yeah, I have noticed in all the videos you have put up just randomly at some stage, I could see you just mentioning my name. I was just like, that was a good plug.
But yeah, so basically, Dec doesn't live that far away, and because his kind of internet situation, his microphone, his laptop...
I don't live in a caravan, it's just bad.
No, not quite that bad. But yeah, because his microphone was not great, his laptop was kind of on the fritz, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were both free tonight, so we decided, just because I was obviously planning on having you on. I said I had 3 people lined up. I'm still not going to name the third person. But yeah, obviously Alan episode 1, Declan episode 2. We just thought we'd meet up and just try and do it in person, see how it goes. So we have, obviously, I've got a lot of questions lined up. Also, I just realised, that's now you and Alan, who I both messed up completely on where the yous are competing in. Alan, I was like, with Alan, I was like, you're in like IADC, right? And he's like, I don't even think that's a thing anymore. I'm pretty sure it's not IADC, it's the Pro-Am. So okay, Declan and Alan both in the Pro-Ams.
I wish it would just stick the same. I wish it would just stay as semi-pro and then just have the Irish Amateur Drift Championship and have it as that. But it just keeps changing every year. I don't even know what my name is half the time.
But yeah, so literally, a lot of the questions are going to be similar to Alan, because obviously we met the same way, as I explained at the start of the Alan podcast episode. If you haven't watched that, obviously, I'll leave a link in the description, and I don't think the annotations exist anymore. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that.
They got rid of annotations on the screen on YouTube, which is strange. But yeah, so yeah, I'll probably, at least the link will be in the description to check out the episode 1 with Alan. We're going to try and hopefully keep this one shorter. Dec has to be out here a bit earlier to get home, but yeah, we're going to try and kind of...
I think they got rid of the annotations for Irish people, though. Especially people from Carlow and Cork, for example.
That's true.
That does not really work well in the YouTube office.
They're a slow race. They're a slow race. The 137 Works podcast, folks, would like to just tell people that we don't condone slagging people from Carlow and Cork. Declan, Declan's from Carlow, Alan's from Cork, so it's okay, we can take the piss. But yeah, so again, as I said, a lot of questions will be similar, but so we're just going to kick straight into it now. So the same thing with Alan. We met on Forza when you were a young age. We still can't decide. Same with Alan. Like, we can't decide. I think you were, I would have guessed about 14 or 15. You reckon younger than that?
About 13 or something like that. I might as well have been born a leap year. I actually can't remember. Yeah. It's been, I think it is about 13 years of age is when I was on Forza. And, well, I have been playing video games for a long, long time. I've been on PlayStation 2 and stuff like that, mainly playing all actually just car simulation games, Gran Turismo from a young age, and anything after that, apart from general car games, anything after that has just been Grand Theft Auto. Looking down from the sky, helicopter view, playing Grand Theft Auto 1, looking at car games that way. But yeah, that was really it. Like,
because with Alan, I was convinced he was like maybe 13 or 14 as well, but then he was like, no, I must have been 12 or 13, and you're a year older than Alan, so that obviously puts you at maybe 13, he was 12. It's blowing my mind. I actually was like talking to you guys when you were 12 and 13.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
It's strange, like, because I was, well, like, keep in mind, I'm 25 now, but I was like, what, 14, 15 back then? So, no, I would have been 16.
Probably 16, yeah.
But again, that's, like we said, again,
I don't know how you put up with it, really, but anyway, go on.
You actually weren't too bad. That was one of the reasons. Like, I'm very intolerant of people that are super noisy and chew the ear off you on the microphone and stuff like that, but so I could tolerate yous. Alan's sister, not so much. That's an inside joke from the Alan episode 1.
Tune in.
Check it out. I'm telling you now. I keep plugging it, but you should watch it. It was good. But yeah, so yeah, that we met the same thing back in like 2009, 2010 or something like that, back on Forza 3. Alan and Declan have a fairly similar, not quite the same, but a fairly similar kind of trajectory from kind of going from the games and straight going into the real life. Now, not quite the same. I will say they're both from the arse end of nowhere in Ireland, and they both drive S14s. That's just a coincidence.
Yeah,
really.
that's a coincidence.
But yeah, so we'll start off with like, how did you get into cars? Like, what, like, you're obviously, as long as I've known you, like, our friendship's been based on cars. Like, how did you get into cars? Like,
From a young age, I haven't really been into football and stuff. I give it a go, and I was only really good in goal. So that's no use. Yeah. Or I had bog toe, so that didn't work either. So I've been into cars mainly most of my life because my brothers have been racing and into cars and stuff as well, like years ago when they had like, back in the good old days as I call it, when most cars on the road were probably like A86s and stuff like that on the road. Every guy and his mam had one and was like really cool cars, whereas now it's just all economical boring Dacias and stuff like that. But yeah, but I came from just that generation of just watching my brothers spannering away outside in the garage working on cars, giving themselves hardship, and I said, oh yeah, this must be cool. Yeah, well, hindsight is a great thing, but yeah, I just loved cars from a young age. That was one thing that I just picked up from and I just really liked. I don't know why, just loved, like, I love kind of art and cars, and like even from a young age I had a packet of straws that I used to like glue together and make like little cars and stuff out of it, just random things like that.
Because one of the things that I said to Alan was, nowadays, like, it's fairly common for people like say, not the McQueevers.
McQueevers.
Not the McQueevers. Who am I thinking of? The Shannons. Like Conor Shannon, like, he was like 12 and his brother had a full competition spec drift car that he was able to just rally around. But like, even not to that extreme, but a lot of people, I know it's kind of an exaggeration, but, or like a stereotype maybe, but like in my head, I think of a lot of families down in the country, like, when they have land, they have like cars, and the kids get the cars and they're like 12, 13, like able to drive the car around the field. Where like, I guess that of Alan turns out wasn't the case. That like with you, with your brother's cars or anything like that? No.
Well, I have, like, my brothers did have really cool cars years ago, like what I consider now really cool, like old Cavalier GSIs and AA6s and Peugeot 106 XSIs and stuff that you just don't see as common now as you do everything else. But going as far as me being allowed to drive my brother's cars and stuff, I wasn't even allowed to drive much at all when I was really young. But I can't remember what age I was. I just remember my brother had I think it was a Mitsubishi Pajero Jeep, and it was just, I have a fairly long garden and he just let me drive it, and I just thought it was the most insane thing ever, because it's virtually impossible to like stall a Jeep with a low ratio box in it, where you just let out the clutch, and no matter how fast you do it, even if you're outside the car, it won't stall. It'll just go, especially when it's on flat downhill. It just won't stall. So it would like, but yeah, that was probably like my first go of something moving. I had go-karts and stuff years ago. I had a little 50cc go-kart, and that got a lot of abuse. My brother got fed up with me very, very quickly with that, because most of the time I was either breaking the clutch on it, or the gearbox, or blowing tires on it. I even put
a full geared go-kart and shit.
Yeah, it was like a 50cc cool little kart, but like it was like just like a torque clutch. There wasn't any gears. It was just forward basically. But like there was flat spots and tires and those bulges on it from wearing them away and stuff like that. So I suppose I was a pretty rough man on anything motor vehicle from a young age. But as far as that goes, I was only ever in the passenger seat or the back seat of fairly cool cars, and I just couldn't help but get along with it. I suppose I kind of, apple didn't fall far from the tree, as to say.
Yeah, I don't know why I have that stereotypical image in my head of like people from the country just being able to like rally donuts through cars and fields.
I know. I always wish I was that person.
I feel like that has to be like a more common thing than my sample size of 2. Like, with you and Alan being my sample size, like both of you have said no, but I feel like that's a thing in my head where, like, again, not to the extreme of like the Shanahan brothers. Like,
it has happened years ago, where you just hear of people, even when I was in school, and you'd be like, no, you're telling lies, or they'd be just like driving their cars, even if it isn't even in the country, in their estates and stuff, just driving across the green, as they say, like, I'm just there going, how are you allowed to do this? I'm not allowed to breathe. How are you allowed to do this?
It's not really a police heavy area.
Probably. No, definitely not. No.
Well, obviously, so that's how you get into cars. Like, how do you, like, what brought you then from cars into drifting specifically? Like, obviously, in interesting cars, your brothers had seemingly like 106s and maybe the Cavalier being rear wheel drive. Like, I'm not getting a super drifty vibe from like your family or your upbringing like that. Where did drifting come in?
My oldest brother had 86s, and I suppose like he wasn't really a drifter. He just like doing the old, he had UK spec twin cams and stuff like that, as they call them in Ireland, just super lights and civvies and Jan Speed exhausts and two-tone paint and all this kind of stuff. Just cool cars that just done a few donuts or whatever. And I think years back in the early days of Pro Drift, even I think I remember the earliest time actually there was an event on in Carlow, and Darren McNamara, D-Mac, was actually driving a K70 Corolla, a black one. And I remember being at that event when my brothers had minis and stuff like that. It was actually a car show, but inside the shed arena, well, it was basically a shed. Yeah. They were just doing donuts and stuff, and I just remember this guy getting out of his K70 Corolla with the tyres just smoking up, and there's absolutely no air inside the car. I just seen him standing out, and I was like, he's definitely dead. And I just thought it was like, that's kind of cool. Yeah. But I was at a Pro Drift event years ago, and I remember just watching the drift cars. I remember sitting on the track in Rose Green watching just some cool cars going by. And at the time, like in those days, if you were into Jack cars, you were kind of frowned upon by other group of people, like, and my brothers, I suppose, like, they like cool cars. My brother had like a Subaru Impreza, and my other brother had an Evo 5 and stuff like that. But
why were you frowned upon for liking Japanese cars?
I don't know. I would think it was just they looked like, as they call it, scutting back at the time or whatever. Anyway, drifting wasn't really that professional. It wasn't anything major.
Can we get a translation on scutting, Declan?
Let me think. Doing donuts and like harshly driving a car and basically wrecking a car, just doing donuts.
Just basically trying to break it by doing skids.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But like it wasn't that professional, and I suppose back then the only thing that you could compare to was D1, and they just looked at D1. I remember a guy telling me before, like, no, they're no way as good in Ireland as they are in D1 in Japan. And I was like, yeah, back in those days, yeah. But like, if only they could see it now, it's like, it's totally the backwards equation now, in my opinion. But yeah, I remember watching Pro Drift years back and just sitting back and looking at it and just enjoying it and just thinking like, this is really cool. It was hard to see the professional side of things, but I suppose if you're ever playing like a video game and you just have a car and you think it's really cool, even a 4-wheel drive one or anything, and you just see it going sideways, it's really appealing. Yeah.
We don't take candy to their taps around here. But no, I was gonna say no. So yeah, no, you mentioned going to the old project events. Like, do you remember your first one? Like, what stood out there? Because my story that I tell everybody about what got me into drifting was going to Mondello for the first time. Completely randomly. I don't even think I knew what drifting really was back then. But my mate just randomly had tickets. I think one of his friends was doing security there or something like that. But my mate had tickets to go to this event in Mondello. And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever this drifting thing is, I'm down, like cars, so I'll go. And this is before we met, this before like Forza or anything like that. Like, I was probably only 13, 14 or something like that time.
Yeah.
But I seen the Driftworks Chaser.
Yeah.
I seen that coming over the hill. I heard that thing on the limiter, and I just went, I like this. I like this.
Back in those days, that was a really, really cool car.
There was nothing else in the world. I had never, because I came from like a fairly small, quiet like neighbourhood in Dublin. Like, there was nobody really had any nice cars. There was a guy at the end of the road whose dad owned a Honda Civic. That was basically it, but he never drove it mental on the road. So I had no like exposure to like super nice, crazy cars like that. So when you see like I think it was a 1JZ or 1.5JZ.
Yeah, it was,
coming on the limiter like over the hill and into the first corner at Mondello, it's just like, what?
Yeah,
you hear the backfires and all this.
Back then, it was like the wildest thing you could ever hear. I think that car was like 450 horsepower, and back then that was insane. Yeah, anything after that was a drag car, but like this was insane to see like a Chaser in Ireland. Nobody even knew what it was. They were all wondering what even it was called. Kept on calling it.
Particularly being like the older, like, what was it?
JZX 81.
81, yeah. Like, it's just, it stood out so much. And then ever since then, I was like, I think I probably faded for a while and maybe went back into football or something like that. Like, but just definitely that just stands out from a million miles away. Did you have like something like that with your first event? Was there anything in particular stood out like?
Back then, I remember like Sylvias and stuff, but I didn't have a particular car that stood out in my own head. They were all just, I suppose I didn't really even know what they were at the time. I just thought they were really cool cars with body kits from
it took me some amount of time to actually do enough research to find out what that car was, because I didn't know I didn't know what like a Chaser was. I didn't know what chassis codes. I literally only found out like the different chassis codes for like JZX 1s, 100s and 110s, all that like 4 years ago on Tumblr. Actually, shout out Mustache Rides on Tumblr. Adam SFX Fathom from the old Forza days. He was the one that, like, yeah, he was a good lad. He actually showed me, walked me through this on Tumblr. He posted all the pictures of the different versions, and like that's the only reason I know. Like I eventually found out. Like it took me a long time, but that was obviously only a couple of years ago. Like that was back at that time. I just knew that it was this really cool boxy orange car that made a very loud rap noise. Like, it's so cool. But I was thinking of, because probably back then at those events there wasn't really much standing out. It probably was just a load of like E36s and.
Yeah, there was a lot of E30s and E36s and stuff like that. Like, nothing that I wasn't too familiar with at the time, going from the scene that I was introduced to. But there was nothing overly special. There was cool cars. There was really cool cars. Like there was at the time. It was the era of a lot of cars coming in from Japan, XD1 cars and stuff like that. I vaguely remember the ex-Kaguchi Falcon Chaser JZX81 or not JZX81, JZX100.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really cool car. Like you're talking about a pure, authentic D1 car with the Falcon colours all over it. Yeah. It was the next best thing to see on TV at those times. Like, and
surely the best thing to see it on TV.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In
like
person.
It was, in person,
like,
it was
the next best thing. Seeing it in real life was the next best thing to see it on TV.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's still.
No, it doesn't quite beat sitting at home in your house watching it on the TV. Yeah, no, cause that's just that's something that I think I'll probably ask people from now on, because that's a question that, because that's such a vivid memory, that I have the first thing to be like, because I can't really remember any of the other cars in that event, like because I wasn't really paying super close attention until I seen that thing. Like, so I'm always curious, like, was there anything like kind of defining moment or anything like that from you, like the first time you went to an event, or
DMAC had his SR86 back in those times. It was the PSP car after a while that had PlayStation Portable on the side of it, but like it was like that old, it was like a Cadbury's blue or whatever kind of colour it was, with the red tear down the side of it. And at those times, I think that was the first SR powered A86, and that was cool at those times. And then the internet came along. That's not stuff that you see
happen anymore.
Yeah, well, it is there, but I suppose the A86 chassis is kind of being limited now, when the S chassis is just so upgradable that they're just not able to overcome.
Well, just like in the, like for example, the Driftworks 86, the DW86, like the V86 or whatever, all the different things they come up with, like just doing something crazy like that just for the sake of it, like something like an SR in a 86 nowadays is probably something similar to that. There's no reason for it. There's no logical reason. You wouldn't do it for competitive reasons, but like. It's not really something you see nowadays.
It's not, like years ago, it was a really good idea to put an engine from a high horsepower car into an A86 that was light. It was competitive. They were really well known from drifting basically back then, and A86 was and is a very big popular car in drifting, so that was a really good platform. And that was a cool car back in those days, because it was probably the most professional Irish built car at those times. Apart from a few Silvias and stuff that were about at those times, but it was a car that just stood out because it was just a random thing. But apart from that, drifting back then was very, very new to me still. I didn't know that much. I didn't even know the names of the guys, didn't know what like wheels or anything were on the car. I didn't know why this A86 had a square plate on the back instead of a rectangle one from an Irish plate or whatever. But then the internet came along, and I found out like that there was forums that you could just go on and look at all these builds and people putting these cars together. And I think from a really young age, for some reason, I had a mad attraction to looking at those builds.
What were the forums? What were the good forums back then? What were the hot spots?
Jesus, I can't even remember the first one. But like, even back then, Driftworks had started up not long after Phil Morrison got big into drifting in the UK, and then Driftworks started up, and then all the builds started coming in, and that was a good site. And Drift Ireland was there as well, and there was even like Midnight Club, and John 44W was another little website. It's still there. I know,
there's like a handful of people out here that would be like, oh, that nostalgia. That's good stuff. None of these are ringing a bell, with the exception of Driftworks and the Irish one that you said there.
Drift Ireland,
yeah. Like none of these are like, these are.
But those were basically
before or after my time. One or the other.
I was a really quiet kid, so all I did was just came home and just like wasted my time looking at the internet, looking at random builds, and just looking at stupid shit, looking at information, just like finding out really random things. Like, people wonder how I know some of these things. It's just because I don't know. I just keep on reading up random stuff. It was my book. It was my only book.
Which is like it helps a lot because obviously now like a lot of that probably just seeped into your brain. So now you know like if you have a problem with SR20 or something.
Oh yeah,
like, I remember like Drift God 240 on that forum like had that issue with the same issue. Like and I remember reading about it.
Yeah, basically like, and it made even building my own drift car really easy in later years. But it was just that was my only book. That was my only way of actually finding out all this stuff, and it was really really interesting. It was just really interesting me, and even in school. At those times, like, I could not sink a single thing into my brain. Whereas if it came to the size nut on a wheel of an A86 or a S14, it would sink into my head twice as fast. Whereas if it came to a maths equation in school...
It's like when you're supposed to be doing your... It's like that meme where it's like when you're supposed to be doing your homework, would you actually researching how to swap the manifold on a 4AG?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's exactly it. As stupid as it gets, that is exactly it. It's not even... That's not even a joke. That is exactly what happens.
Yeah. But like so that's yeah. So basically we've covered your history. That's just one of the things like basically the first segment of the podcast. So then we go into like kind of
more interesting stuff.
More I find it all interesting to be honest. Yeah. But so we met obviously in gaming. So we'll go into the gaming stuff now because that leads again. I probably did it backwards in the episode 1. The gaming really leads into the podcast with you and Alan. So you started off, as you were mentioning earlier on, you played a lot of Gran Turismo, you moved on to the Forza. Like, what was the first kind of, were you in Forza 1? Like, when did you start, I guess since we're talking specifically drifting, like, when did you start drifting? What game was it you started drifting? Were you drifting in back in Gran Turismo?
I tried drifting in Gran Turismo 3.
Yeah.
And that game didn't allow you to, but the whole feeling of getting opposite lock for those 2 seconds out the corner, even though it absolutely looked like nothing outside, as long as I could actually get the wheel of the car to go opposite lock for a millisecond was really cool because it had some really weird driving aids. Whereas as soon as the car goes in opposite lock, if you had everything turned off, the car just stopped and just slid off like a shopping trolley for some reason.
It's funny that you mentioned that because like going back to the thing of like nostalgia. I had that exact same feeling, like, or that same experience. Like I, at some stage, I don't know if it was during like that time of like that, like Gran Turismo 3 being the current game, or if I went back to it at some stage. But I do remember also trying to drift in Gran Turismo 3 and finding the exact same thing. You'd enter and like you just kind of like flop sideways and then just kind of maybe like get a bit of extra like lock or whatever like that. But then it would just kind of spin out or you just go pull back around or something like that. But like it's weird that you mentioned that because I had that exact same thing in Gran Turismo 3.
There was another game that comes to mind actually. I used to play, I think I played loads of Colin McRae games. He's like my idol, to be honest, and as sad as it sounds or as stereotypical as it is, he just is. That was the way it was. Like, and I remember playing a game. It was Colin McRae 2000. No, it wasn't 2005. I'm not sure what it is now. It was a really weird actual edition of the game, but I can remember playing that game on either the Japan stages or the Germany stages, which were both tar and hairpins everywhere, and in like, for example, a Super 1600 Polo or anything like that, and just banging gears, pulling the handbrake and going around every corner and winning it. It was the funnest thing ever, just to be able to just literally just go wild. That's what appeals to me. It's just going wild in the car. There's no better feeling.
Basically, just drifting in a WRC game.
Drifting is cool. Like, many people would look back and say that it looks easy. It's really, really, really mind-boggling. Like, you have to shut your brain off to do any of it. But we'll get to that again.
So you started then in the Gran Turismo. So then, obviously, specifically Forza, because like the reason that I always like to focus on Forza is obviously specifically with you and Alan.
That was the game that you could drift in.
Yeah, that was basically the drifting game. Now it's possible in GT4, I think, or GT5 was it?
Yeah,
that was the next big one for drifting.
It was possible.
Yeah, Gran Turismo 5. It was possible, but like Forza was really the place if you were kind of into cars and into drifting. Like you got into Forza, and also obviously the channel. You people listening, a lot of you are subscribed here probably still from the old Forza videos that I used to make.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping like a lot of this is catching a lot of your attention and being like, oh, he's making drifting videos again, like of some kind. Because I know I've been slacking in that regard. That's my bad. But so you started obviously at some stage in Forza. What was your first Forza? I think you were with Alan in 2.
Forza 2 was my initial start off into Forza games. I never played Forza 1 until later years down the line when it was like, oh, is this what this was? But Forza 2 was what started it off for me, and I just remember like always doing laps of Scuba or just random tracks, and being able to like put my own graphics on the car. That was, at the time, Need for Speed was the one that you could style your car, and then Gran Turismo was the one you could drive. Whereas now you had Forza, which you could do both, and it was just really fun. You could put like
so many racing games were missed the trick by not having like a livery editor and customization.
Stuff like that,
like the even Assetto Corsa. I've made this point, I think, to Alan. One of my favourite things about Assetto Corsa is obviously the physics and playing with it, but it's sorely missing the customization. I was going to say the customizability. That's rounded about.
It's the same with like Gran Turismo is so far advanced. But like, well, I don't know if I've been.
You can stick on like one of 3 wings, one of like maybe 15 wheels, and the colour scheme.
That's the really disappointing bit.
And that's like one of that. It's especially with something like cars, where people take cars so personally, and like your car is an extension of yourself. If you want to be like like out there about it, like, but to have a car game and not have any kind of customization other than like wheels and a couple of wheels and colours, like that's where Forza really grabbed a lot of people in. Like with me in particular, for me it was something about the ad. I said the same thing to Alan. I had so again repeating if you watch the first episode. But for Declan, I had 4 PlayStation 3s. I went through 4 PlayStation 3s between 2007 when they first came out and 2009, I think. So in 2 years.
I've been there too. I'm after getting a good few PlayStation 2s as well, and PlayStation 3s and stuff as well.
Yeah,
I all broke.
Went through all 4 of them, like, and I just I gave up after the 4th one. I just said, no, it's fine. I'll just take a refund. So I took a refund. Or whatever, like my parents took the refund, and I got something else. But then the Christmas came around to 2009, and in like the November or late in the year, they started airing the ads for Forza or for Forza 3, and I just, something about it hooked me in. I was like, that looks amazing. Car games look that good nowadays. Because by this stage, I was into, what was I playing back then? Like say Call of Duty. I was playing COD 4, 2007. I was playing Skate came out in 2007, so I was playing a lot of kind of other games, of FIFA and that kind of thing. I kind of dropped away from car games a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I seen the ad for Forza 3, and I was like, this is what car games look like nowadays. This is insane. So I ended up getting Xbox 360, Forza 3, and the wheel, all from just various members of my family that year. And that's how I got into it, like, because I was just like, that game, because I seen the ad and that got me into it. Then I was looking at like, oh, the new Forza game is going to have customization. You can pick this car and that car, and you can do your own like liveries and all that kind of thing. Like, and I was like, yes, these are things that I like. Like, let me get into this. Cool.
Like, and even at Forza 2, when I was using it, I wasn't on Xbox Live or anything. It was literally just playing it offline. But Forza 3 came along, I was playing that offline for a while, and then I discovered that I can go on to Xbox Live, and I was like, this is going to be unbelievable. And I'm going to have no life.
I was the same. For the first couple of months, I just didn't even contemplate that you could go online. I was just having loads of fun on Benchmark Layout A, just doing circles around cones and the light posts and all that. And then all of a sudden, at some stage, I don't remember the first time that me and you and Alan met, or me and you met, or something like that. I'm presuming it was through other people that we do. That I don't even.
I'm not sure. Maybe it was through other people, or maybe it was through an online public lobby or something.
We could have literally just heard each other's voices and started talking or something like that. Because the earliest memory that I have, explained to Alan. I think you watched the episode. You might have heard me. Was when yous were doing backwards entry into the first corner of Sunset Club, just knocking them out every single time, and I'm just like driving around slowly, just watching, like, I don't know how they're doing this, because by this stage I'd kind of picked up on how to drift, like I kind of hold one on layout A when I didn't have like tight confines and corners to make it through, but I couldn't for the life of me even hope to have made a backwards entry. But like, yous were so helpful, and yous were telling me to watch your telemetries, and you were saying like,
I remember that a good bit as well. Yeah, you were like,
yous were sending me replays.
Even at those times, we used to go on to tracks like, what was one of them? I think one of them was Sunset. And,
I very vividly remember the Sunset Club.
I can even remember telling you like, there's a load of cones. Just go around those cones. Do it any fashion at all. Either a circle, figure eight. Anything at all. Do 20 million numbers. Yeah, there
was another really good session where we all had twin cams on. What's that American track? Road America?
Yes.
We had a good session on Road America there, and you just had like a custom little section where you'd go right around. Do you remember it was like the hairpin? You'd go right around it, but then you'd go left off track. Yeah. And then you come back on. I remember a session on that as well, which was very helpful watching you do that. Like, but it's weird because I was saying to Alan then, a lot of those people that we were hanging around with then, they just disappeared. I'm probably still friends with them on Xbox Live, but
I see a few guys there. Alright, I remember a lot of old names, but I know like Mark as well. That was a guy that was back in those days as well. There was a good few other guys. I don't know where half of them were gone, but yeah, there was like a handful of people I know of still, and you're one of them, and Alan's one of them, and there was...
Yeah, there's basically now the only people that I've kept, even like the teams that I was in, like Drift Effects and stuff like that, there's basically you, Alan, Tom, and once in a year, you ass, Rennie shows his face up on Facebook again. Remember Rennie?
Oh yeah,
DFX Rennie. Yeah, like me and him like were in the DFX days. Like we were like that. Like he basically taught me how to tandem like back then. Like whereas he used to help me to drift, he basically taught me how to tandem and taught me how to like get faster cars. And we'd spend hours just talking about like, because I was dumb for some reason. I couldn't get. To this day I still don't fully understand car tuning. Like I get the theories of it. But unless I know like a range or something like that of like this is too low, this is too high, get it in here. I
used to kind of like make up a few setups, and when I seen you kind of changing your driving and working well with one setup and working a little bit less with the other, I was like, yeah, just stick with that one and just keep on kind of putting that onto every car, and it kind of just worked just about. And then I remember when you were with Rennie then as well, that the tuning just got a little bit different, and you performed more. You liked those more. That was just to suit your style. Yeah, that was the thing. Like
I've had so much out from all these, like, and that's basically the people that I got on the most with are you, Rennie, Tom, and Alan, and it's mad. Like that was 8 years ago nearly. At this stage,
it's crazy. Like
crazy. But so then Forza 3, then you dropped out in around Forza 4 for a while. You and Alan really, because I went out of Forza 4. Like Forza 4 was my YouTube time. Yeah. Like when I kicked off the YouTube channel back in 2013, I think 2012, 2013, something like that. And I was making a lot of Forza videos, and I just remember maybe you were still going, but we weren't on as much together anymore. I think Alan by that stage might have moved on to the PC as well at that stage.
No, I think what it was that for a good while we were actually playing Gran Turismo 5 come out, and we actually used to use like. PlayStation didn't have a party where you could talk on it, so we used to have the Xbox on on like HDMI 2, where you'd switch over the channel, get into the party, and like you'd have Mark and all the other guys just in the one party on Xbox. The electricity bill was phenomenal at that time. And then you'd switch over to the next YPBBR, whatever channel it was, onto PlayStation, and just start playing Gran Turismo on that. And we'd be talking about like what's going on there, and then people would be going in like, "What? Why are you talking about pressing triangle for? What are you doing?"
I kind of feel
that was messed up. But we tried everything we could just so that we could communicate to tandem and do random things and Gran Turismo and random games.
Yeah, because I think it was about Forza 4 as well. The earlier times in that as well, where I had with Rennie was like he kind of was the same. Now he dropped off really quickly, but I just remember getting very lonely at a certain stage about say divide Forza 4's lifespan into like 4 quarters. But like the second quarter, I was just on my own. Everyone else I used to drift with wasn't playing anymore, and I was like, I was still here trying to do my Will It Drift and Roll Less Travelled and just trying to get on whenever I could.
A lot.
DSC Nenex, if you ever check this out, DSC Nenex was an amazing drifter with some sexy cars that I met online and randomly in Forza 4. He was just super consistent, like. But like me and him, but like we never talked. I never got on to chat with him ever. He just he was just like that. Like, I'm making the sign for like. Just say that. So I was like doing it to Dec. Like we were just in sync, kind of like. Yeah. And there was a couple of others like that I jump on with, like the Simply Funky guys. Yeah. That's when you did come back now for the Simply Funky.
Yeah, there was Simply Funky was one of the things. I think at that time you were on. Were you on SFX? And then after that, Simply Funky started up, and then I kind of just like, well,
I was on the very bad reformation of SFX. Looking back, like I felt good at the time because I was like, holy shit, I got into SFX.
Or maybe it was at the time. I think Simply Funky were looking for recruitments, and I think I just messaged you or something. I was like, do you want to join or whatever? And I think you joined in after that.
Yeah, I was in it for a while, and then the same thing happened. Then I was left to be like the one of like 2 people in Simply Funky for a while. And
then eventually Simply Funky went and died, and all those other different groups. There was 9 as well. Jesus Christ, there's another one actually. 9 was another. But yeah, there
was a good few of them. Like, but they just, I don't know. And then even with the Simply Funky thing, then I stopped even making videos. I just dropped out completely with the Forza thing. Like, because I think Forza 5 came. No, Forza Horizon came out. Yeah, and then Forza 5 came out. And then by that stage, I was like, oh, this game is 2 games old now. At this stage, like,
Yeah.
it's 2 games old. It's only probably been about a year and a half or 2 years since it wasn't not the current game anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I just kind of started feeling like crap. Like, I can't keep uploading like 2 game old gameplays. Like, so I stopped doing the whole YouTube thing. So then at that stage, like, I was still having requests from people from it, like Simply Funky, being like, if you come back, give us a shout and all.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably won't be back, and I basically haven't been.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the slight tangent about teams and stuff. So that's basically Forza. So that we've more or less covered like the ins and outs of Forza. Is there any other racing games, sim games, or like did you ever move on to the PC like Alan and me did? Alan and I, myself and Alan.
I remember before I actually got onto Forza, when I was playing Gran Turismo, I had actually bought a Logitech G25. And that was my first kind of introduction to sim racing wheel on
The full 900. What were you using on Forza all that time?
At Forza at that time then, I couldn't use the Logitech. Logitech wasn't supported on it, so I was really disappointed. But I was using my controller and stuff. But then I got an MS
You
wheel.
used a controller?
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't remember that. I always thought you had like at least like the Microsoft wheel or something.
Oh, I did have a Microsoft wheel then after that, but then I went and I was on a Microsoft wheel, and then I got introduced to Alan somehow, and then I was in conversation with him, and I remember at that time I had bought a 911 Turbo S Fanatic wheel, and at that time it was bought but it wasn't there yet, and I had discovered that this guy that I was talking to had the exact same wheel. I was like, do you have one as well? That was cool. And yeah, so that's how that started with Alan and stuff. So yeah, basically I got introduced with that, and then I just took Forza really seriously when it came to the racing wheel, and I had loads of trouble with that Fanatic wheel. But then I still had the Logitech G25, and I wasn't playing Gran Turismo. So then when Gran Turismo did come out, Gran Turismo 5 came out, that's why I divided off of Forza 4. I just jumped off that, went on to Gran Turismo, because I actually preferred the Logitech wheel. And then the Logitech wheel was working, and then eventually the Fanatec completely broke. And
like, as somebody who coveted a Fanatec back then, because I was stuck on that heap of shit down there. Like, for people that don't know, I'm pointing down at my Microsoft, what do they call it? The wireless wireless racing wheel.
Yeah.
Tell me how many wires you can see here attached to that wheel. There's at least 2 wires on it.
There's like
3 if you want to hook up your headset to it.
A telephone Ethernet cable connects the pedals to the wheel, and then there's a power cable that's 15 feet long.
They call it wireless because it's wireless to the console. It's a stretch to call that wireless.
Yeah, it's a very good stretch.
But yeah, there was like the crappy 270 wheel, and yeah, so that's what I had. So when I knew that you and Alan had like Fanatec's, I was like, oh, like I really want one, but the fact that you're like, I actually just preferred like the G.
I went back to an MS wheel then because my Fanatec broke and I had no wheel, and I was tired playing on the bloody controller, so I just went to an MS wheel again and played a lot more hours then after that again on an MS wheel. But yeah, that's basically the way Forza went, and then I took it really seriously.
But did you never? What I was saying was like, did you ever move on to like to a sim game? Did you like a full on, like, say, R Factor or something like that on the PC?
I remember
something like that on the PC, you know.
I wasn't really that educated with the laptop and stuff that I had. I still am not.
Well, that's an important thing, yeah. Like the crappy laptop that caused him to have to like come up here and do this live.
Yeah,
is the same laptop that you had back then.
It's the same laptop, yeah.
So like, it's probably not like a high grade gaming laptop.
Yeah, it's ancient. I actually am thinking about burying it at this stage. But yeah, I got LFS on a disc with the Logitech G25, and I just tried it. I thought it was cool, and I couldn't really get it to work. But eventually, when
do you know that that's Alan's favorite game?
Yeah, it's actually, I can understand why. It's when you can get it to work, it's really cool, because everything actually like has an effect. Like even the way you tune cars, or even the sound, you can actually make a big major difference. Whereas that's the thing that like Forza had a change where if you done things you'd notice it, but you really have to have done so many hours with the same thing to notice the difference. Whereas if you done it on LFS, if you soften the suspension, this car will bounce. This car will go everywhere. Just
because for me it was the modern thing. Like, I thought if he could have it, because one of the questions I asked him was if he could just have any game, he could have his full simulator, but he could only pick one game to play with. I thought you'd say R Factor. And like for me personally, it'd be a set of courses because I've got like 700 cars, like 300 tracks or something like that. Like, and I don't mind the physics of it. So I was expecting him to say R Factor, and he said Live for Speed, and I was like, that's mad bizarre. That's so strange.
I actually think myself, I think it would be R Factor. Yeah. Mainly that's because it was the only kind of online simulator, proper simulator game that I actually got a good chance at. Yeah. And then just things went bad with the laptop and stuff. And I never had a good laptop. Never mind laptop. I never had a good computer to actually run all these games. So that was what I introduced myself to it. I'm
gonna convince Dec to get a PC. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I really.
I've got a way of showing them the true power of a full PC, and it's gonna be good. And I think you'll like it.
Yeah, Alan's teased me a lot when it came to his one as well. I visited his house, and every time I'm there, I'm just playing like new games or something that he's got on his laptop, and played R Factor and all that stuff, and it's really good. You actually really get to do some testing without costing you millions.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's one of the craziest things, like the fact that you can like know about circuits ahead of like the circuits being like actually confirmed. Like like he's done hundreds of laps before he even gets there. It's so cool. Like it's amazing. But so you didn't really you never really got into the Sims things. You just kind of
I kind of just got introduced to it, and it didn't really get too in depth. I didn't really get that.
You
chance.
Didn't have to, because I guess we'll move on. You didn't need to sim. You were doing it for real.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how else to put it.
I think it was the end of Forza 4. Maybe it wasn't the end of it, but I was looking for a drift car. Alan had bought a E36 Beamer, and at the time they were kind of the budget car.
Yeah.
And they were probably not as cheap as they were in later years. They were probably still like worth $1,000 or that. But I was looking for a car, and I went to look at two cars. I missed out on a Mark III Supra, I remember at the time. I remember I seen this on Dundee. Dundee was a plug in the last thing as well. We should need a sponsorship for this video.
Hit us up.
Yeah, do a big like sponsorship for this whole series, because it really will be worth it. Oh yeah, tune in later episodes. This is going to be good.
The Dundee Drift Lounge podcast. It's got a nice ring.
It does actually. DD Drift Lounge.
Okay, stop plugging them. They're not paying us.
Yeah, never mind. But I remember I was looking at the adverts, and I seen this Mark III Supra, and I was like, oh my god, I have the money, this could work. I really like this car. It had like a 7M, which is not like the poverty spec of a 1J engine, and it was just I was really, really interested. I rang him, and he had literally just said that he had only just sold it like within at least an hour, and I was so disappointed. That ball is
incredibly luminescent. Look at that. The world's most illuminescent orange ball just rolled past the window outside, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that ball was incredibly... It looked like that kid's red t-shirt.
That was like a Toy Story episode.
That was the weirdest thing.
I'm waiting to see the lamp jumping up and down on the Pixar logo right now.
I'm very sorry for interrupting you, but I had to point that out. That kid's like, your car is very blue. That kid's shirt was very red, but that ball was like daytime.
Yeah, that ball was glowing. That had a bulb in it. Anyway.
Sorry, yes.
But the way I was looking at it, I was always looking at Drift Ireland again, another plug. But I was always looking at Drift Ireland. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I haven't looked at it in a good long while. But Facebook, I kind of took over all the forums and stuff. But I remember looking at all the adverts, and everything that was cheap as regards to Sylvia or anything was always up the country, Northern Ireland, anywhere like that. And I was in the south, or it was in Cork, and I didn't have the transport. Yeah. But then a guy from Carlow, his name is Dan Moorhead, who you might have heard him from the Irish Drift Championship, who was a pro, semi-pro, and then he went back to semi-pro just to kind of enjoy himself and less stress and stuff like that. But he had an S14 for sale, and I remember looking at it. It had a bit of front end damage. You can, I'll show you a photo of that.
I was meant to say at the start of this, anything, you'll have probably seen some by now, but anything that we mention here that requires pictures. So if we're talking about like the car in the early stages, mid stages, late stages, all that kind of things, we're going to flash up pictures and videos, so you'll get a picture of what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I seen this S14 for sale, and it was, I think at the time the advert was, it had the front end damage, it wasn't fixed, it needed bits and pieces, and it was €2,000, which at the time for a Jap import S14 is pretty much what they were worth at that time, at the bad times, like when everything went bad in the country.
Like, and now considering, like, one of the things that was cool to me about this at the time was that this was an ex-Project Academy car as well.
Yeah, it was actually
Like it still had some of the stickers and stuff like that when you bought it. Like.
it had a few stickers on it, but I remember being told it was used as a Monster Energy car in Paris. And funnily enough, James Dean actually, which is now the guy leading Formula Drift and multiple time championship all over Europe winner, he drove the car in Paris, and I actually have photos of the car in Paris. And basically, it was a stock enough farm car. It had standard suspension, maybe a set of wheels, and that was it. And it was being pedalled really well, following like pro drift spec cars at the time. It was really fun, like history to have. But the car was basically in standard form when I was interested by it, and then I held off. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'd be interested, but it's kind of a thing where I can't really bring it home. I didn't have a transporter, or I didn't really have any way of bringing it home. I was 15 at the time. Yeah. And then later on, the advert went up again, but the advert went up this time for like 2,100 with one set of wheels, or it was like 2,500 or something like that with a certain set of wheels, which I wish I bought. I'm a wheel whore as much as I am a car whore.
What wheels did you mean?
Just there were ultralight Nürburgrings. They were like, at the time they were like a dished wheel that were really cool on Jack cars. Still are a really cool wheel, but it was either buy it for like 2,500 or 2,000 or more hundred anyway, with those wheels, or buy it with a random set of wheels, just after being NCT'd, and the front end was fixed. So
did the NCT matter though? Because were you ever planning on having it as a road car?
Well, I didn't really know. Actually, mainly what I wanted was actually a project car. I actually just wanted something that I could work on and make mistakes on. It didn't necessarily have to be the most expensive option, buying a Nissan Silvia, that if something went wrong, it's not exactly a cheap fix. But I just wanted something to work on. That is all I wanted, was to actually spend most of my time just working on the car, because I knew I didn't have the transport, so going to events and stuff like that was going to be very, 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 very rare. So most of my time was spent in the garage just spanning away and learning to work on my own car.
Can I ask real quick? I just looked at the list of questions there. I forgot there's a thing. Alan mentioned how he managed to get it. I'm sure a lot of people are curious how at 15 you managed to be able to afford a drift car. Were you working or doing jobs for your family? I was working. In Alan's case, it was his communion, which is like in Ireland you get you do your communion, which is like a Catholic religious thing. But like as a kid, you get a load of money. All your relatives give you money for it, basically.
At the time, I had built up money working for my dad. My dad owns a business in Carlow, so I was working there part time and working at the weekends and stuff like that. So I just kept on building up the money, and I was really scroungy. I didn't leave the house either, so I was always at home. Never went out. Never bought anything in the shop. Never went to movies or anything. So
at 15, money coming.
It was a boring time, but.
Like making up for it now.
Eventually, I copped on to the point where I was able to see what cars were worth, seeing that it was kind of possible, and I stopped buying some things that I was just buying, and went and just kept saving and just kept saving and saving and saving. It went insane at one stage, like where I was just putting away coppers and stuff. And eventually, I just changed them over. I was like, "Ma'am, go to the bank and change that into cash." And that was like, "Yeah, I got like 15
you have saved."
€.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have saved like $12.50.
Yeah, $12.50. It was ridiculous. But I remember then that at that time it was just Nissan Silvia come up for sale. I had the money, I really wanted it, and my brother was able to drive it. So that was the main things that were popping up. That was a green light in my eyes, that if it was able to be brought home, that was all I needed really. So went, looked at the car, fell in love with it. Dan Moorhead brought me for a test spin out on a private road. Testing the car or whatever anyway, and just
you went to Mexico for this?
Yeah, I went to Mexico for this, and just being able to experience what the car was like inside, I just instantly fell in love with it. And at the time, it was the most looking back at it now, it was the most lame ass spec S14. It was Japanese, yes. It had an SR20, yes. It was turbo, yes.
But it was clean though. It was really clean.
It was actually a really clean shell. It was actually a shame that the front end damage had happened, but it wasn't actually that bad. It was just like the front panel where the hinge or where the latch of the bonnet is on the car. That's basically the only thing that was bent, and the rest of the car was perfect. And it got everything. It got its lights and it got everything that it needed, and it was just perfectly fine then. So that suited me fine. So that car was bought and brought home. My brother drove the car home, and even at the time I remember that like he was like almost ashamed to drive the car because it just looked really bad. But it had like all different coloured panels and stuff, so I'll show you a photo of that as well. Yeah. But the car was drove home, and he was just like ashamed to drive it because he was just into a certain type of cars, certain type of generation of cars, and a Jap S14 drifty kind of car was kind of like, this is stupid. But remember just bringing it home, and ever since then ever since then that was when the addiction started, and that's when everything just hit the fan.
7 years ago now. In a very roughly 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago.
It was 2011.
Oh,
so it was mid 2011, so it was about 6 years. Yeah.
So in a very condensed way, what has been done between then and now? So this, if you're gonna watch, I should probably know. See, episode 2, we're learning. If you're listening to this as a podcast, pay attention to the screen now, because I'll flash up some progress pictures from where it's gone from the different stages. So where has it gone from being the car that you bought? You'll see the picture now. Kind of to where it is now, which it's a gorgeous looking car.
It turned into...
What are the major, I should say, the way I think I put it to Alan was, what were the major things? So say like the wheels, engine, say transmission, LSD, body kit, that kind of thing. Like what were just the major big things to hit on? Like
the car,
putting aside a lot of work. I'm aware. I hate to do that. This is like completely crapping on like hours and hours and hours. Like
over the years, I can't remember half the stuff that I've done to the car. But
just like to acknowledge all the hours that you put into it. Just real quick, what's basically been the biggest changes to it?
Right, as stock form, I bought it. It had a welded diff. It had an intercooler, an air filter, and I think it had like a Nardi wheel in it, or it was a KTS wheel. Same as a Nardi wheel, it's made in the same factory. Right. And that was basically the gist of it. That was it. It went from that to a car now that has a full IDC. It's basically a full IDC spec car now. It's a fairly basic one engine-wise. It still has the same engine. I've never opened it. The engine has been never opened. It's never given up. It's never blown up. It's never done anything. So for 6 years of hard graft, it's actually. I was going to say,
which is impressive, because if you've ever seen Dec drive, which again you will at some stage in this video, you've got videos and stuff like that. Because he's fairly it's an underpowered car. He really has to like give it the beans basically, like to get that thing around the corners.
My own driving style really just goes from being an absolute rough person on the car, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy driving the hell out of a nice car, and then coming over and go, why did I do that? But it went from that standard enough car with a few little basic things.
But which engine? We haven't specified what engine.
It had an SR20 DET, so it was a 2-litre turbocharged. 200 horsepower at the time, actually, because it had an old turbo on it off an S13, which was small. Yeah. So it was about 200 horsepower approximately, or 205, or whatever they were in an S13 as standard. And then it is now a 318 horsepower engine. It's basically just like put a turbo on it. Done a little few things like different size throttle body and stuff like that, just to help things a little bit. But it's a 318 horsepower car now, still on the same engine, same block, same internals, everything. But it basically, the rest of it is all mainly suspension and chassis work. So it went from that to now it has coilovers, it has full suspension kit front and rear, it has like just alarms in the rear, extra lock driftworks hubs up front. Basically it turned into a car where at the time, the best thing I ever done with that car was I actually spent most. Yes, it is. Yeah, I
suppose it have to be for the company.
I got Stone Motorsport to do the cage, so which I'll explain in a minute how Stone Motorsport got introduced into the whole thing. But basically, I spent a lot of time on that car actually doing just the suspension work, just learning randomly things. Forza helped a lot because I just got to learn about random stuff, but being able to actually put all the suspension out on the floor, I spent most of my time painting the damn thing. But I had it out all on the floor, and I was able to actually learn. At the time I was doing a college course, and I was able to make stuff up like subframe bushes and stuff like that for underneath the car, to like do random things like raise the subframe so that when the car is so low, the suspension is as if the car is not lowered.
You were getting proper into like the geometry.
Oh,
and,
like I was getting into like really ridiculous, stupid things. Well, like it wasn't getting all mathematical, but it was getting in practical theory. This should work. So I got to learn a lot about the car and how the car actually should act and how I want the car to act. So I think that's actually what helped me in later years to be able to drive that car so well, is actually being able to know exactly what the car is doing and why it's doing it.
Yeah.
Even being able to specify what's going wrong, I can know why. Like I can just adapt to that. But
that's a level of this is why I'll never be a professional drifter. I'll never be a professional athlete. Like I don't have, like, I'm a fairly smart dude, but I don't have that like knowledge of, like, I don't have all those years, for example, searching forums and stuff like that, where I can be like when you say that you know exactly how you want to perform. For me, basically, if it slides and I can get some angle, it's good.
Is bleeding
like
dead.
this is great crack. Like I can't be like, yeah, you know, it's a bit soft in the front and I feel like the rear is, it's just it's a bit twitchy and stuff like that. They're like not subtleties I've ever been able to figure out in games or in real life or anything like
It's
that.
something that you just learn. Most of it is actually just, most of it I got to learn just being able to drive the car and just changing things. Seat time is a big thing.
Yeah.
Seat time is like as many times as people are just going to absolutely string it out and say, oh yeah, you need more seat time. Seat time is everything, absolutely everything when it comes to drifting or racing or anything. Being able to know the car and being able to just like know where your butt cheek is in the seat. Like you just need, like, just seat time is absolutely everything. And,
which you got a lot of early on nowadays. Just real quick to veer off, because I forgot, we should have mentioned that earlier on. A lot of your first kind of times out weren't like, you didn't just get this car and just start competing in IDC. You had a lot of like track days in. I actually had a video for you, which I'll leave a link to the description because it's still there. Goldstone was a place that you used to go a lot, which is this cool kind of small but very, because like there was like elevation changes, went down, it dipped down and went back up. Kind of like, not a figure eight, but it was kind of in the shape of an eight.
It was like a figure eight, but it was just a distorted kind of one. But it was originally like a really old karting track that just that was made from concrete, and it just kept on getting extensions of concrete every 2 foot, but it just kept on getting bigger and bigger. But
there was that one, but then that's I always remember that one because I like that one a lot. But the first ever video that I did for you was at Casey's.
Yes, that was
Casey's Memorial thing. Yeah, years and years ago.
That was years ago.
Which is literally for people that don't know. Obviously, a lot of you won't. Casey's is basically, if you think of like
it's a big farmyard.
It's basically a big farmyard, like the space. The say football pitch size space of concrete.
Yeah, it's a big enough area.
Yeah, like big enough area. Like but it's basically just a big concrete rectangle.
Yeah.
But like, what is it? Once a year, a couple of times a year, they put on an event where they just set down a couple of cones, and it's basically just a figure of eight, and they let like up and coming drifters basically.
Yeah, it was basically just a memorial for the guy Casey himself.
Yeah.
And I remember I just went to this event, and I remember that the day after, mentioning, by the way, that the car had NCT going on the road and stuff like that. The NCT went out the day after this event. I still have the NCTs, or I'll never forget it. But
speaking of videos, I also do have a link in the description to this video as well, because I also had that. They're both on my old channel. I don't use them anymore.
But yeah, I got to actually drive the car then. And I got to learn like just random stuff, like things that
just speaking of seat time, like all this, like all these like small little events that you went to, like that seem small at the time now. They were kind of, you were just doing like that, like you'll see from the videos that Casey's one was literally just 2 cones and you just do a figure of eight.
Figure of eight or an oval or do whatever the hell you like, basically. And Forza and all those things helped so much. I was able to actually know what to do with my hands. Hands are a big thing when it comes to drifting, like, and feet.
I don't know what, like, sitting in your car, I don't know what to do with my hands.
And you could just, you basically just sit there and you don't even think about what you're doing with your hands and stuff. But obviously you will when you start off. You'll start doing random things and be wondering like, oh, why didn't this work? It happened in the game. Why didn't it work here? But
not knowing when to grab the
handbrake or when
to grab the wheel, wherever they can.
Like, if you can shut out thinking about your feet, your hands, and all your controls, basically that's where you get to the point where you start getting used to actually being able to drive the car. Like learning to drive a car in general. You don't like look at the steering wheel to see where it's pointing every time you're driving on the road. Either that or you're going to have a bad time.
But yeah, no, I did sidetrack you a little with that one. So you were saying we were on the kind of where the car's being started from to where it is now, and you were saying about seat time being important because you were doing the suspension. Yeah,
and doing the suspension and doing all the other work to the car made me develop myself as well as the car. It made me be able to make... Basically, I was able to fit the car around me. So the car now has a fully IDC spec chassis with It's 318 horsepower engine. It was enough for me. And suspension wise, the car just acts really well. I'm able to have loads of grip, snappy. It's not an easy car to drive by all means, but I know how it'll work.
Yeah.
And I just wanted a car that had a bit of lock, that like had a lot of input to the steering wheel to me, and was a snappy, really fun car to drive. That I can really like just bring out my heroic Japanese wannabe style in the steering wheel kind of a thing. But yeah, that made it really easy being able to build a car to that. No, basically now the car is an 80 spec car, 318 horsepower, grippy, really snappy.
So
big
it's not hard.
car.
Like it's not like a lot of competition cars you'll see. They basically just strip it down to a shell, clear everything out, and then go from there and just completely rebuild it with all the best parts and all that. This is still basically that same car that you got. Just
it basically is. It's a very basic car compared to nowadays. Nowadays you have bills costing six-figure numbers. Like that's like it's insane. Sequential gearbox and stuff like that. I still have an SR gearbox, which shocks a lot of people because they're basically like cheese. And like one of them lasts me a good few years, which surprised me since I'm such a rough person on a car. But yeah, it still even has an SR gearbox, and this, like the welded diff that was in that car blew up at round 1 last year, so it took me about 5 years to blow that diff up. So it blew up really well in style too.
And has an LSD in it.
No, it actually just has another welded diff. Just get another welded diff, a few different ratios for different tracks and stuff, and just being able to throw it in for different tracks and have a welded diff. It's just cheap, reliable, hard to go wrong. I don't have enough horsepower to really break a lot of stuff. Yeah. Like obviously the gearbox.
But again, watching you drive, that's not immediately obvious. Like the way that you drive, and especially like the videos that I've seen, like you just don't notice that you're low on horsepower. Like the commentators didn't even mention like Declan Byrne doing very well for such a air quotes low horsepower car. Like like the car just looks fantastic when you're driving.
I drove the car for so long at about 220 odd horsepower, and just got used to driving the hell out of that car and making that work at that when I got 318 horsepower going into last year, it felt like I was on the moon. It was the most amazing thing ever until someone comes up beside you and like a 600 horsepower.
Start to get away.
Like in Wargrass Hill last year, where you have Joe Dial coming up beside me in like a 500 horsepower R33 or more. Right? God knows what that car has, but I just took off as hard as I could go, and he just left me. It was like I had the car turned off. I definitely checked to see if the car was actually turned on. But yeah, I was able to make the car work for what it had. Like I think a lot of people overcook when it comes to building a car. Yeah. They like go and think that you need like a lot of horsepower to drift, and you think you need a lot of horsepower and a lot of like money to be able to do really well. That's one of
the downsides. I think I'm not one of these people that's like, Formula Drift, Formula NASCAR, ruining drifting. Yeah. Like I'm not one of those. I'm totally cool. If you want to put like 1,000 horsepower, like
I can appreciate a really good build. Like that's my thing.
But I do think it's affecting up and coming people that think that you need to immediately get yourself an S15 with 1,000 horsepower or bleeding V8 or something like that. Yeah, that's a negative thing. Like where like you've done it. Like I said, same with Alan. Like he's done it brilliantly. Like start off low horsepower, get your bearings down, go from there. Yeah. Ramp it up slowly but surely. Like maybe next time you go out competing, like maybe add another 100 or something like that if you feel you need it. Yeah. But like the way that you're doing it now, it's just been perfectly. That's the way That's the way. I hate to be like, that's the way it should be done. But like that's just in theory. Like that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah. But like not even mentioning any names and stuff, but you could even look at drivers and say like there's a lot more potential in that car, and it just looks like he's not. It just looks like the person is not able to actually get the full potential out of the car, but it looks like he's at his full potential. But then he'll blame the car and he'll go and put like a couple of thousand into it and put like a sequential gearbox and 500
It goes back, as silly as it sounds, like it really does go back to the Forza days where we used to like laugh at people that would come into the lobbies with like R2, like 700, 800, 900 horsepower. Oh, that was amazing. Cars. Like twin cams with like 1,000 horsepower, like R1 twin cams and stuff like that. That's even possible. Whatever the max R1 like twin cam was, just max it out, and we'd be like keeping up with them because they didn't realize that if you've like 800 horsepower in a twin cam, you're just spinning tires all the way.
I remember.
Whereas if I've got like 500 in an S14, I'm just no bother. Like it's fine. Like
I remember
the tires,
like
the power that I have, I'm putting down. You're not. Like
I remember even on the Forza forums, like a big thing was at the time. I remember watching. When I was even on Forza forums, people used to even just talk about myself and Alan and whatever anyway, and used to come across random posts about like, oh yeah, Declan beat you in a 199 horsepower A86 on Forza, and just made it work. It sounded ridiculous. People could hear me like hitting the clutch every 2 seconds. It's like the car wasn't even going, but it worked.
It's just a very basic fundamental. If you've got
too
much horsepower for what your car can put down, you're not putting down that horsepower.
Exactly.
It's diminishing returns at a certain point.
Yeah.
If you get the right balance of the right tire size, grip compound, horsepower, that's what you're looking for.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Just in my head. Like. To
be able to actually get the 100% full potential of a car is a major skill. It's something that will... I'm not blowing my own trumpet. Yeah. Like I've a lot to learn still about my own car. Yeah. Like I know of things in my own head that I know that I've gone wrong with my own car, but I know that I can learn from that and make it. I was able to make it and adapt, but I know that I have a lot more potential in my car than what I have driven it. I know I'm a fair bit up there, but I'm probably like at 70%. I know there's a lot more in that car than what it actually tells. And that's what a lot of people can't actually get to grips with, is there's a lot of cars out there that aren't at their full potential, and they are just... It doesn't make sense to me. The
word that you always hear in drifting, particularly from like Japanese, like old school guys, is balance, and that's basically what it is. Like as far as I'm concerned, it's the balance between power, grip, weight, all this kind of thing. Like it's I used to think when they said balance, they meant like it actually in the car, like balance and like the angles of that. Like it's actually it's everything. Like the word balance, as kind of semi cringy as it is,
it's
like
the entire package.
It's what it actually comes down to. Like
it's the guy in the driver's seat to the wheels touching the ground.
Like if you don't have that much horsepower, but you've got like, say for example, you sign a new tire deal with like this great tire company that makes super grippy tires, but you're only pushing 100 horsepower, and you've got like super grippy tires, like you're not going as fast as you can, for example. Whereas on the other end, if you've got 1,000 horsepower and you have these crappy tires with no grip, nothing. You have to have the balance. You have to balance them both. Like.
Exactly.
And then obviously throw in like the suspension and the weight and stuff like that, distribution and stuff like that. Like
like it gets into the nitty gritty, but it really pays to do your research. Yeah. Basically, it's like anything. It's like even going out there. If I went out there to do graffiti on a wall, I would absolutely make a beautiful masterpiece of absolute diabolical mess, a complete mess. Yeah. But like, I just wouldn't have any idea where to start. I'd have a vision in my head where this is going to look really cool. I'd stand back and go, what the hell? But like, that's what...
I appreciate you trying to make that a reference for me to understand.
Yeah, just as an example. Like, I'm going out there and playing football. I'll just end up kicking it to the...
Just hoovering as hard as I can.
Into my own goal and thinking I'm class. But that's like...
Yeah, so that's basically, we covered... We're about halfway through now, actually, at this stage. Right, so... How did you actually get started? So we talked about, like, we've already talked about the fact that you actually have competed in IC. Like, how did that come about? Like, how did you actually get, how does one, and you in particular, get into that sort of thing?
I remember that after I built my car, I brought it to Grip Fab, otherwise known as Stone Motorsport. And I had only finished doing all the paint job on the car and the suspension work and stuff like that, so I sent it up to them, got work done. And I had done a drift day. I remember I had done a drift day up there, and I had actually organised the day, and Alan was there, and there was loads of other people there. But I remember that day that I was really, really going on song. It was the one day that me and the car actually went really well, apart from just stupid little things, but the car actually went really, really well. Yeah. Then the car got built and all, and I went a bit haywire as regards painting and detailing it and stuff like that, and just random little places. When I got work done on the car, I think the guys were really pleased that they actually got like a cool enough car to work on, or the fact that I was just like, I suppose the fact that I was clean, I suppose. Yeah. That was just like a nice car to work on. And at the time, I had really no intentions to do IDC. Yeah. I was just working on my own car, and I was doing a random drift day every, maybe 2 at the most a year.
I was going to say, because you never, like, when we used to talk about it, and I was like totally jealous that you at 15 got a drift car. Totally not jealous. I remember you never once ever mentioned competitive drifting at all.
Oh no,
you just
I never
were happy to have the car.
I suppose it's because it was like I didn't really want to do it unless I was right to do it, unless I was prepared to do it. Mainly because other than that, it'd be a waste of money. Yeah, being one, because if you were going to do an event and you pay a lot of money to do the event and you go home at 12 o'clock, it's not exactly a good day. It's a bad day. But There's no point in going to not qualify.
Especially considering that was like probably the days before sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
okay, they're only as of last season. You've only got your major sponsors, is it?
Yeah, it's basically like, and so I had only actually finished building the car, and I was only after been talking to the guys on the phone, and they were like, yeah, we're only after finishing the car. Everything's going good anyway. I think I was actually only after getting wiring done on the car and stuff, or maybe it was only after getting a roll cage done. I'm not sure now. So many stages, but I got the guys to do that, and they called me and they were like, have you ever thought about doing IDC? And I was like, not exactly. Like, I thought about it, I'd like to do it, but not unless I was able to get transport and stuff like that. And the guys were like, well, would you be interested if we done a bit of backing for you and got you into it, like? And I was like, from talking to a couple of guys before, they were like, look, at any opportunity you get, just take it with both hands, because you might not get it again. And I was like, yep, let's go. Never really thought about it. I just said, yep, I'll take it.
So that was just them from the start. Like, Stone was the first, like? Yeah,
Stone was basically the first. Stone was the guy that, like, Brendan Stone and John Stone and Brian Stone were all the guys that were just able to introduce me to the whole world of the Irish Drift Championship, and it was fun. It was really fun.
Did you know them beforehand, or was that literally just you were recommended them, you brought your car there to tune it up? And
I knew of them just because I knew them just through IDC. I suppose I knew Brendan as a driver, but I remember when I was going to Goldstone and stuff like that, I got introduced to the guys, and when I got work done on the car, I remember a crash actually happened in Goldstone, and that's actually how it started. Yeah. A crash happened in Goldstone, and the back of my car got damaged. And I remember getting the rear end of it tube framed, and after that then I got tube framed, done a day out. That was the really good day out, and then after that then I went and I just went mad basically in the car. And then I got noticed, and then I was able to do the Irish Drift Championship. That's just how that worked. The Stone basically introduced me to it and gave me a helping hand along. Like it wasn't all for free by all means. It was a helping hand, and it
still didn't have tyres at that stage. Like that.
No tyres, nothing, no idea. No idea what I was getting myself into. Yeah,
that's fair play. And they just literally basically offered it. You didn't ask them.
I didn't ask them, and I didn't want to. I don't like asking really a lot of companies, because I'm assuming they really do get hounded.
Yeah, because I'm curious, because how did they, had they seen you drive? Obviously, they'd seen you drive a Golf, and they knew your potential. Is that why?
I'm assuming
what was in it for them? Basically,
I'm assuming that's why it was, and I asked, why? I don't know why, and you saying, well, by the looks of it, you're able to drive the car, and you seem like a good driver. Like, you can see from a distance if a driver was good or not, and you can see that you have a lot of potential. So why not? And it was a cool looking car, so why not put a name on a good billboard and go out and have a bit of fun? Yeah, and they don't go out and win anything. By all means, there was no intention of going out there and winning any championship.
Contract stipulation 1. Yes, win at least 5 events.
Yeah, no way. So it was definitely not the way it was going to happen. Yeah. But yeah, it was just fun. I just went out there then and had fun. It was really good.
Yeah, so you obviously started off. So you did 2 events, not last season. Last season was your first full season. You did 2 events at the end of the season.
I had planned to do the full season, and as plans go as regards drifting and stuff like that. Now maybe it's a lot different down the line now, but as a beginner, plans don't necessarily go to plan, and they get a bit delayed and stuff. Just things went a bit delayed, and I was aiming to do round 2, which was Mill Street in the indoor arena in Cork, and I didn't get to do that. I knew I'd missed round 1. Round 3 I missed, but the first test day out in the car, after getting a proper cage for IDC, after getting it painted and wired, and the first time I actually ever drove in Mondello was a Club Loose event. Club Loose was an event that was run in America by really cool guys.
That's over the
there.
Midwestern guys that have the super they almost do like JDM style better than the Japanese guys do.
Yeah, it was
the cars
really
are gorgeous.
They were cool cars like Chris Forsberg and stuff like that done it over there, but Eric O'Sullivan came over here and brought that over here and done an event over here, and I think it was 1 of 2 that happened, but it was definitely the most fun day I ever had out in the car, and it was the first ever day I was in Mondello, and I was absolutely under so much pressure in my own brain because I really didn't want anything to go wrong. I seen what happened in Mondello before. I didn't want anything to happen to my car, especially after the amount of money I had spent at that time just to get IDC legal is a big step. And
So the cage alone, just mandatory. Like that's
cage alone is 1,000 average. Like
crazy.
that, like it's insane. And I went out there and I absolutely loved the car. I kept on. I just went out and I just had real loads of fun with the car. I was able to actually drive the car with all the suspension work done to it and alignment and everything. It was the first time that a car ever got alignment. Whereas the wheels were pointing. As
it's like those old, like the old school radio control cars where they had a little thing on the bottom where you could swing them left and right. Like yours just sort of is.
Yeah, basically, many people have said it was as far out as a lighthouse. It was absolutely brutal. It was the worst alignment car in the world. And then eventually, when it actually got good alignment, I was able to actually handle the car. Yeah. God knows how it did before, but.
And that was still obviously back in the days of like 200 horsepower.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And
that's probably why it worked, because it just didn't want to work.
Well, that like ties into one of the questions, because I was like, either your most fun event, well, maybe probably both. There's probably two separate ones, or maybe even both. But like either your most fun event that you had, so I'm presuming that sounded like it was up there, or like what's been your best finish? If that's not that it's important, but just out of curiosity.
My best finish was at round 1 last year. I'm guessing the one thing that stands out in my own mind though is not round 1 last year. It was actually Japfest before that. Yeah. I had done for my was my first one. That was round 4. Yeah. I really enjoyed that event. I qualified and I was buzzing. That was amazing. That was a really good event.
That was round 4 of the season before last.
Yes, yeah. That was the 2016 season. Yeah. Oh no, sorry, the 2015 season. And that was a really fun event. I went into top 32 and I got knocked out, but I actually done it one more time with Barry Hennessy. That was a really good event. I'll always remember that. Like first event, qualified, I was buzzing to even go one more time.
Is that the one? Amazing. Yeah, I've seen that video. That's the one where you have the in-car video. You've been like, woo!
Yeah, I was going mental in it. I was going crazy.
We'll have to try and find that clip. I have to put that in here.
Definitely
that was seeing your actual just raw joy of like being like you're doing it, like kind of thing. Like it's amazing.
And really the car worked. It was amazing. Such a low horsepower car, and I didn't think it would be able to link the track, and it linked the entire thing. That was amazing. But it was Japfest that year. I qualified, which I was buzzing about. I didn't want to not qualify. One thing I don't like in drifting is not qualifying. It happened to me once, and I don't want it to ever happen again. It was the worst feeling ever.
Like,
you're doing a lot of practice, paying a lot of money to go home early, which is bad.
Which you don't technically go home. You stick around to and watch.
Oh, I stick around, but it's a pity to be put out. It's a pity to put myself out. It would be understandable if the car blew up or something, but if it's myself, it's a bad thing. I can only blame myself for not qualifying. And basically, that round I qualified, was happy enough. Went into my top 32 battle. I think it was against Sean Watt, which was a E36 Beamer. And I had this mentality that if I went up against someone good, I wasn't afraid. I'm not afraid to go up against someone good. In fact, it actually makes me a lot more confident because I can actually push against that other person. If I'm going up against someone that I'm not sure about, that's when things get a bit, I don't know how this is going to go. Yeah. Went against Sean Watt and the two of us just pushed. He pushed and I pushed. And look, it takes two to tango. To do a good battle, it takes two people to do it. Like.
Definitely.
And that was a really good battle. And somehow I had scraped my way through, winning it, and I was absolutely through the roof. That was my first win ever. And
that also could have been the video that I've seen thinking about it now.
Yeah, it was good, like. But then I went from top 32 to top 16. Top 16, I went against a fellow called Mark Keane, I think it was. Yes. Yeah, I think it was. Who had only just finished his V8 S14 A, which was like a really cool car, that an LS and nearly 500 horsepower. I'm not sure what it was, but like it was a really cool car. And I remember when I went, because he qualified higher than me, he took off first. So in his lead battle, he pushed. And I remember on the pace cone, I took off, and I was, from the get-go of taking off, I was flooring it into the first corner of Mondello. There wasn't a let up at all. I was grinding gears, not letting up off throttle. I wasn't doing anything. I was trying to get this car to go as fast as I can. I remember going up to the pace cone absolutely flat, and I could hear his car ticking over beside me. I remember just going, oh my God, this is it, boys, we here now. I'm done at this stage. But he just put the foot down and he went. But when we went into the first corner, something went wrong. and he just overshot the corner and went into the grass. And I went, oh my God, what is going on here? And went through the first corner, past him, and just done my run. And then when it swapped around then, and I led, he kept with me. He really done a really good chase behind me. That was really good. But at that stage, I had known that it wasn't enough to turn over the 10-0. So then I knew that I was going through the top 8.
That's great.
Top 8, then I was absolutely on the brink, because I was going up against a guy called Kevin Quinn. Kevin Quinn was on the start line, and I remember sitting there just absolutely happy. I wasn't nervous at all. I was just really happy to be there, and I was going to really just have fun. And I was like, I seen Kevin driving all year, amazing driver, and I just couldn't wait to drive up against him. And then I just was sitting there starting, buckled up, put the car in first gear. As soon as I buckled up my belts or whatever, I wasn't even holding the steering wheel. I just said, right, I'll just do a burnout or whatever just to warm up the tyres. I let out the clutch and the car just went bang, and nothing happened. The car didn't even move, didn't even flinch. Where I blew the gearbox right before I even got to pull up to the line. And Kevin got the win, and I was absolutely gutted at that point. So that was the best event, and then the most ruining event.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
But it was definitely one that I'll never forget, going as far as that. Yeah. And then I eventually, round 1, which was a really good day, was I actually got to repeat that. But at round 1 last year, I actually got to qualify. I qualified 3rd. I got the Hero of the Weekend nomination for round 1 last year. And I then went to the top 8, and I actually got to drive in the top 8. I actually got the battle in the top 8. I went actually against Dan Moorhead, the one guy I actually bought the car from, and he beat me. So I'm nearly sure he actually rigged the car. That car definitely had something wrong with it. I know, the two of us pushed, and he just outran me completely. Yeah. And look, he was the better driver on the day. I couldn't pace up with that. So I was happy with the result. And
keep in mind, these are like high results, high qualifiers, and all that in a car with like. You hadn't got the 300 plus horsepower. That was still the 200.
Up to on Japfest, they had 200 whatever horsepower it had, and then round 1 last year, it was the first time it had 318, and that was the one event where everything went wrong. I blew a diff. The bonnet came up on my car.
You haven't had the best luck, so obviously we're not going to cover every event, but we can't pass up this without mentioning
that this is not going in well.
I think we'll actually take a moment to pause here. Again, this is one of those moments where if you've been listening to it as a podcast, turn attention to the screen here. We're going to flash up a video of Declan's start at Mondello, on the Mondello line. Do you remember what event this was?
This was round 1 last year, and it was in the practice on the Friday, and Paul Stryker was behind me in an SR20 powered A86.
Yeah.
Hauling ass into the first corner, and yeah.
So I'll just stop talking now. I'll cut in Declan's video. So, what happened?
Right, Jesus, hold on now, reminisce. That morning, a water pipe broke on my car. I came in, got fixed. Was in a real rush. Oh no, something else went wrong. Intercooler pipe or something else blew off the car. I got that fixed, went out for my practice run. Went out on that practice run, and then I was told that I had to go back in because my car was leaking water. Noticed that the radiator pipe was burst, got that fixed. And at that time, that was the Friday practice. I was trying my best to get as much practice in as I could. I was nervous as hell. I shouldn't have been so nervous, or shouldn't have been so eager. Yeah. Although, yeah, practice is key, seat time is key, but I shouldn't have been so eager. And I remember just being in such a rush and completely forgetting to close the bonnet pins on the car. Went out on track, buzzing as hell, and when the bonnet just flew up, thank God I have the bare minimum of a photographic memory to remember where I was on the track, that if I turned a little bit, I just stumbled off the rumble strips and went off the track. And luckily, Paul Stryker actually was... he's a really good driver, so he knew like where to go, and I don't know where he went. I didn't even see his car passing me.
The noise of it, for those of you that just watched the video, the noise of it, like that, was that as bad in person? Like,
oh, it was
that, like, that
it was
proper,
scary.
Like,
it was like in the video you can actually see the video, although you can see the bonnet rising up fast. Yeah. I didn't see the bonnet rising up fast. It was a matter of me seeing the car.
You blink and it's all of a sudden
blink,
the vision's gone.
Bang! There was a big bang, and literally my bonnet curled back like a Pringle.
You're just like, oh hey sponsors.
Yeah, hey sponsors, yeah, everywhere, yeah. All I could think of was the chicken song in my own head. Then just this damn thing flying up on the windscreen and turning into a complete Pringle, smashing my windscreen, but and I didn't know what to do.
I was going to say, it damaged your windscreen, it also damaged like your roof.
Yeah, like bonnet came up and hit the roof.
Funny as it is, like it actually did a bit of damage to the car. Like
it was ridiculous. It turned into a car that I loved, and then I see this happen, and I was ready to cry, and I just said, look.
Although that also gave birth to another fantastic moment, which was at round 3 last year, I think. Round 3, remember you brought the bonnet?
No, that was actually at round 1.
I was not saying the
round 1.
Jesus Christ, because I was at that one then. In that
Forrest
case,
Wang was at it.
On the Sunday. Yeah, you were there. So this all happened on the Friday and the Saturday.
And I was there going, look, how do I make good of this whole situation, and how can I make this bonnet somewhat useful that I don't have to try and put in the wheelie bin somewhere? Again,
we have photos of these, and it's this most bizarre thing. You're watching Dec, who, you're not the tallest man in the world. No. Bonnets are fairly tall, surprisingly, for standing up. So you have Dec like starfishing around with this like big bonnet, carrying it from the pits, carrying it from where his car's parked up to like the different like places where like Forrest Wang is signing autographs, and like just basically carrying this dude walking a bonnet up and down the pit lane all day.
Me and my girlfriend Maeve were just walking up and down the pits with this bonnet holding it around.
Just getting everyone to sign it. Like I signed it, Tom signed it, Forrest Wang signed it. Who else? You got a few.
Dwayne McKeever signed it. Barry Leonard. Wesley Keaton, Jesus, loads of people.
You were catching people as they were coming out of the driver's briefing.
I was just like, don't. They were just after coming down the stairs from Mondello, coming out of driver's briefing. They said, "Don't you?"
Yeah, he literally
move.
If like there was like a choke point where you can only come through this narrow spot. He basically blocked it off with his bonnet, and basically just you're not getting past until you sign. Yeah. It was hilarious. It was so funny.
Oh, gee, everyone was just looking. Oh, not this Egypt again.
It was so good. But yeah, so that's definitely a highlight. So as much as it was probably
as much as I was really disappointed, it was funny. Yeah. I can see the funny side of it. I don't look at it as a disappointing thing, seeing the roof crumple and stuff like that. Yeah, it is bad, but I just look at it and say that was actually funny.
Great story behind
it.
Yeah. So like, clearly by the way you're talking about it there, you take it seriously. Like that, this isn't for the most part. Like it's a hobby and it's fun. It's great. Drifting is supposed to be fun, like by cracking all that. But it does affect you. It makes you feel crap when you do bad. It makes you feel great when you do good. Like how serious as far as like the competitive side and like that kind of thing. Like how serious you take it? Is it a priority? Is it just something that you'll do like when you can or what?
It's a kind of a thing where when the only way I could do this was with a bit of backing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't necessarily turn around to these people. Like I take sponsorship fairly seriously. Like a lot of people take it very for granted, and it burns a lot of bridges for a lot of drivers in the country where they just ask for sponsors, give me money, and not return a single thing. Yeah. Like I made sure that whatever I got from a sponsor, I returned it. If I couldn't afford it and sponsors paid it to me in some sort of way, I made sure that I paid it back in work.
Yeah.
I paid it back in social media promoting, I paid it back in driving, I paid it back in making my car look presentable every single round. I made sure to show up every single round. That car was at every single round that year. So it made a fun thing a priority in a way. Whereas that if I didn't do it, something would go wrong and it would just end up falling back on me. I didn't want anything to go wrong. I just wanted to have a good year. I had fun then when I was at the track, but then in between all those things, it's very hard to notice like all the time and effort and the absolute tiredness you get just thinking about it all the time. Like I'm not necessarily the most wealthy person in the world. Like, it's all on my own hard-earned money, and whatever I get went straight into it, and I was broke. Jeez, there was times there where, as mad as it sounds, like I could end up like looking at my bank account and I have a tenner to myself after an event, and I go, I am doomed. Like I'm just working through to my next paycheck, and then just hope then that the paycheck lasts me for the week after, and then go and do another event. Just
that's what like a lot of people and me, until I got to know the likes of you and Alan and that kind of thing. A lot of people think, oh, they got sponsors. This makes you just be free. They must just rock up with like 100 tires in the back of a car, all the spare parts they need, like a team of crew there from Stone or like that. In your case, like that's just not true. Like that's just not the case.
No, it's all coming off my own back. Yeah. And like, yes,
like if you spin that car out and wreck the thing, you have to fix it. Fair enough, you might have to support the stone for the lads to actually do the work for you if you need it. Like, but you still have to pay them.
Oh, I still have to pay him.
Yeah.
Still have to pay the guy to do it.
Yeah.
It was like maybe I might get a discount on like an hour's worth of work that he did on one day on one part of the thing or whatever. But I still had to pay for all the parts, all the labour, everything. I had to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Like nothing is for free in this country. Like the country doesn't have the resources like England does, for example, or like America does. America has the resources.
Yeah.
You can go in there as a nobody and come out like a somebody. Like, and it's you have to fight for it in this country. And you can, and now me actually taking a break from it this year. Yeah,
controversial.
But me taking a break from it this year, I'm able to really appreciate that. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, so
like, it takes a lot to do this. It's a big thing. As much as I love doing it, it's a business as well.
Yeah,
it is actually a business as well, as much as it is a fun sport. Behind the wheel is the fun bit. The rest of it is all work.
So it's obviously you are taking a year out this year. So that's do you want to talk a bit about that? Like, what was, I'm guessing, going by the sounds of it just sounds like it's very stressful to try and do that all year. Like,
for me to come back to drifting this year, it made no sense for me. Yes, right. The best results that I got from last year, I finished 14th in the championship, which was an amazing result.
Yeah. Out of how many?
Out of, Jesus, 50,
15.
60, yeah, 15, yeah. 15 people. 14th in an S14, I was happy.
Oh, yeah, man.
But,
didn't even think of that.
what's it called? Like,
edit. It's fine. You finished 14th out of.
I finished 14th in the championship, and then basically I ended up
14th out of how many? That's where you're at.
Oh yeah,
I interrupted you. My damn jokes.
But I qualified I qualified 4 out of 5 rounds, and the 4 rounds I was in top 10.
That's
in
good.
In the qualification. To me, that's a very big goal to me. It's a personal best. Look, I'm not bragging and boasting myself all over the internet. Look, I did it and I made myself happy. At the end of the day, it's all about, look, it doesn't matter if you win a championship.
Knowing your level's a big thing. Like, knowing that you're only in a 200, 300 horsepower car, like, against all these people with full spec cars, like, stupid example, I had my best ever game of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I know you don't particularly know what that is, but people listening probably do. I finished 4th the other night with 5 kills. And I'm like, your boy's a damn god. Like, I'm the best guy that ever played this game. I finished 4th and I got 5 kills, and that was amazing because I know my level. I know I'm pretty bad. Yeah. If I could finish in the top 10, that's a good day for me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, then it was global warfare last year. I didn't qualify, and that sucked so bad.
You want to be at Mandela because where there's a bigger crowd.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. It's all a part of the parcel, and to not make the step was a really bad thing. Yeah. But to me, being able to know that I was able to drive my car enough to get into the top 10 of 4 of the 5 rounds in the qualifying, and not qualifying the other round due to my own stupidity. Yeah. I know that's a really good thing for me. Now after that, what I need to do better is I need to be able, like, I can do lines, I can do whatever speed, whatever. I'm lacking on speed because
he's talking about drift lines, by the way.
Yeah, drift lines. Oh, yeah, the good
phrasing.
Jesus, that was bad.
I can just do a lot of lines and then just go out and kill it, boys. It's great.
Yeah, that's bad. Jesus Christ. Oh, this is going to go viral.
We hope so. But yeah, no. So you're so go back to the point. You're taking a year off. Basically, you're taking a year off because it's a lot.
I'm taking a year out because it basically made no sense for me to come back this year and do the exact same thing. I want to do better. I obviously want to better myself.
Take a year off, get a bit of knowledge in, work on the car some more.
Yeah, take a year out, save some money. At the end of the season, I'll go at the car in the shed again and get some.
In the meantime, you've got a very, very pretty daily.
In the meantime, I got very bored, well, I didn't get very bored. I kind of stumbled across the car, and the guy that works for me owned it, and then I kind of just went and said, yeah, why not? while I'm not doing drifting, I might as well occupy myself in another way. So I bought Mazda Unos Roadster for the Japanese enthusiasts and stuff, otherwise known as an MX-5. That turned into my project then from Christmas last year. I just bought a week before Christmas stupidly bought a week before Christmas. Who buys a car?
I was going to say,
that was
you bought an MX-5 the week before Christmas.
That was stupid. It was the most dumb thing I ever did. But no, it turned out fun. It was a cheap car, so I went and I spent most of the time. I think Christmas Day I was painting underneath of it. I bought it a week before Christmas, drove it twice, stripped it, painted it, built it since, and I've been just driving it now as a daily car and having fun in it.
Again, friendly reminder, if you've been listening to it as a podcast, pictures now from the start to where it is now. And we also actually specifically went out earlier on and we got some videos and little bits of clips and stuff like that of the car, the inside of it, and listen to it rev and stuff. So have a look at those, have a listen to them. Yeah, but so basically what was the goal behind the MX-5? Basically?
The MX-5, I basically wanted something to occupy myself to work on, and then I wanted something to take pride in, and if anything, I wanted something that I could drive on the road and bring to a track day, not have to worry about a big budget car going down the drain. If something went wrong, it was cheap.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to actually give me better habits in a way that I will be back in a lower horsepower car again. It's 115 horsepower, 1.6.
Yeah.
It's not exactly massive horsepower, but it's enough to move you in a straight line, I suppose.
Yeah, he collected me from work earlier on to come do this, and I have to say, like, you gave it the beans up the slip road legally. It's the acceleration, it's not the top speed.
It was the acceleration, and I was reaching the speed limit.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Yeah, it's getting to the speed limit. That's the fun.
Yes.
But no, like honestly, for I can definitely see why people enjoy them. Like for such a small car, for only 116.
Yeah, they're a really fun car to drive. Like they are actually really fun.
You do still feel it, even at a small amount of horsepower. Like in such a small car, you do still feel it a little bit in the back there.
Yeah,
and it sounds amazing. Like in the ear, like you have that whole kind of like the
four
exhaust being like right
stuff,
back there, like just right behind your ear. Like you just, it's a very visceral. Like it's actually like
it's a tin
box. Yeah, it's like being in a tin box with like. It's good fun though, and it's gorgeous. People watching this will see the video. It's a very, very good looking car. Like.
Thanks very much.
The amount of stairs, like I was in it for what did it take us about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get to my house from work, and at least I counted 10. That's not counting the people I didn't see looking at it. Like it definitely, it's a little head turner. A dinky car. As we pulled up into my house, my mum was like, "Who owns a dinky car?" And I was like, "She's funny. She got jokes."
Like, I'm a fully qualified hairdresser ever since I started driving it, so I'm all good.
And that's another thing we were talking about in the car right here. I was explaining to people the car that he drives because I was like, "Oh, I'm excited! Like I can't wait to get in this car for the first time." They're like, "What is it?" And I was like, "A Mazda MX-5." And they're like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Do you know like the convertible hairdresser's car?" "Ah, yeah." That one, like everyone knows them. They just don't know they know them.
It just goes click. Yeah, hairdresser car. Yeah, I know the car. Yeah, dumb little thing.
But yeah, so that's like
I want to just be able to bring that to a track day and have fun in that and get myself into good habits. Like for example, not using the handbrake because if I do, it just stops. I have to there's no wheel spin. It's just all momentum and weight transfer. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's like that's your plans now, at least for the rest of this year. Like, so, but going back into it, like when you do go back into it, what's your like setup like going into a weekend? Like who's your crew? I know basically your girlfriend is number one. Like
basically, that's basically the gist of it. Like during the week, I go and I'm preparing the car for the event, and I have Wesley Keaton. Last year, I knew Wesley Keaton was transporting my car, so the car went to his during the week. We get tires fitted, alignment, put the car on the trailer, get it all suited and booted up, bring all my tools. Sometimes I brought him a micro where I'll have the micro full of tools and stuff. But
that's right, his actual daily is a micro.
Yes, basically my actual daily is a 1 litre absolute weapon of
You have to love it. You have to respect it.
Oh yeah.
They're workhorses.
They're pure workhorses, yeah. And basically then at the weekend at the Friday night I would drive down to Cork, which is 2 hours away from my house, collect my girlfriend because that's where she's from, and bring her up. Then she'd stay in mine. Then the next morning, then we'd start at IDC. Then we start in the practice in the morning. Then she's my spotter. She helps me clean the car, prepare the car, get my head in the game. Basically, if I'm washing around the place, my head could be anywhere. I could be walking into walls that day tomorrow because I could be thinking about so much that I'm not thinking about what should be.
Yeah.
And she's just able to keep me in check. She's able to keep me even on track. Even if I think I'm going really well, she'd be able to tell me I'm not deep enough in a clip, so I'll just go more towards a clipping point and stuff like that. And
Dec's a man for an innuendo, and yet you can never find him when he says them himself.
Man, stop.
Dec's some fiend for an. You used to comment on my videos all the time when I'd make an innuendo.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I suppose Karma's a bitch.
You're a fiend.
Yeah, but she was basically able to tell me where I'm going wrong, where I'm going right, where I could do better. Tell me if I'm boring as hell. For example, in Watergrass Hill last year, I qualified and I was well up there, and she said, yeah, you're after doing exactly what the judges asked for. Judges were happy, whatever, but look, boring as hell. Go out there and do something wild. So I went out and just done a big backwards entry.
For people that watched episode 1, again, link in the description, check it out. I confused it with Alan because I was convinced that I'd seen a video of Alan doing a crazy, like insane entry and stuff like that, and I was like, this has to be it. I've definitely seen it. I wasn't making it up. Turns out I was thinking of that run because Maeve put it up being like, when you tell your boyfriend that he did what the judges need to do, but it could have been more impressive or something like that, and then he pulls out this. So we'll try and find out. I'm pretty sure that video's on Facebook, I think. So we can pull that up and throw that up. Yeah,
that would be right about.
Yeah. But that's a fantastic run. That was a really good run. So basically just yourself and Maeve, is it?
Yeah, it's basically just myself and Maeve. That's the main group.
That's fantastic.
And then after that, then you have just
name a more iconic duo. I'll wait.
Batman and Robin. No, actually, no, that went wrong.
No,
they went against each other after a while. No, that's wrong. But yeah, that's basically the crew. That is all the crew is. And then after that, then you have a few friends of mine that'll come along and help. And if there was something wrong, Jesus, the drifting community is amazing.
It really
if something goes wrong, you'll have the guy that you're against coming up to fix your car. You'll be like, "What are you doing? Get back in your car, you lunatic! You could win this, but just leave me alone." But no, that's the thing. Like, they could that doesn't sound like in my part. He could just leave me alone and not actually and just win. But no, the whole community just joins together, gets everyone else going, and it's savage. Can't go wrong, like. And she helped me most of the year last year, like, and she's been really helpful the whole year. She was actually the first one I rang when Stone Motorsport rang me and said, basically, we were thinking about backing you, and I was like, what do you think I should do? She was like, yeah, do it, yeah. And I was like, yeah, good, right, go. So, yeah. So, shout out to Maeve. Does she have like an Instagram or something that she... She does. She has an Instagram, Toyota Girl 220. That's basically her, YouTube, probably the same. Yeah, it's actually the same. Yeah, check out Maeve. Like, that's amazing support, like, for a girlfriend. Yeah. I didn't ask for it at all, and she's always been there to help, so I can't be... Also, I remember, I think I've told you about this before, I remember when you were telling me that you fancied Maeve on Xbox. I'm just saying, really? I'm just throwing it out there. I remember you had to do that. Yeah, I'm telling you, I remember, maybe if you're watching, he told me that he liked you, and you're like, I don't know, I'm liking this. And I was like, man, I hope it works out well for you. And it clearly has. That's ended real well. That's fantastic. He's not happy. Jesus Christ. That came here for drifting questions and he's getting roasted. I'm boiling here. Actually, I don't understand how it's roasting to say that you have a very good, healthy relationship. I think that's good. Yeah. That's right. I'm just that. Yeah. Yeah. A little shy. Yeah. Alright, so that's basically it. And like, as far as any work that needs to be done on the car, that's just to you as well. Like, unless obviously somebody else offers to help chip in, like. Yeah, basically, yeah, that's the way it works. Like, she helps as much as she can. She had, like, I don't ask for any help from her at all. She's always there to help. She's always there as a very, very big help, and I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I did last year if it wasn't for her help. Yeah, that's so, can't be any more grateful for that, like. Right, so basically, I'm curious, now that you're not competing and you can kind of just sit back and watch in both your own division, I was thinking subdivision and amateur pro-am. The pro-am and just overall the IDC, like, what's your kind of, is there anybody that you're a fan of? Is there a car or a driver in particular, a team or whatever? Who are you going for this year? Well, last year and this year I've always kind of... drifting to me, regardless of the personalities of the people or regardless of their cars, I always kind of try and keep on the fence about it all. Yeah. And just like, I look at the battle and say, look, he won. Yeah. And it actually helps me because I'm able to actually learn a bit more. And if the judging calls are actually the same as my calls, it means I'm actually doing really well. Yeah. So it educates me a bit. But as regards my favourite driver and the favourite style of driver and his car, whatever else anyway, Dwayne McKeever. Big fan of Dwayne McKeever. Good friends of mine as well, but apart from being friends, I really like his style of driving. Like he drives his 800 horsepower RB26 180SX like he's driving a 50 horsepower moped. He just rags the thing everywhere, and that's exactly the style that I like. You just go out there and drive that car, the wheel nuts off it. Just drive it until it wants to break.
Yeah, that's really cool. No, Dwayne's definitely
don't know how. What last?
Yeah, no, Dwayne's really good. I'm trying to think who would be. One of the things I love about IDC is I find in a lot of like English, the BDC and a lot of the European events, the cars don't look great to me. They always look kind of awkward or just a bit weird or something like that. Like IDC has some gorgeous cars, some really stylish cars, like the dealt with cars in particular, like all Brian Egan, the Egan.
Yeah, cars, I'm a fan of Brian Egan's car. Really, I'm a fan of Brian Egan's car. I think the graphics like suit that car down to the ground. Like it suits everything.
Do you remember? What was it? Alan Lenihan?
Yes.
Remember the S14 that he had? No, was it S14 or 13?
He had
it on display at the first one that I went to with my parents, and had like machine guns sticking out the front and everything.
Yes. Oh,
like,
you're
that
thinking
is
of
just pure.
Is it Gavin Lenihan? It was one of his brothers.
I just remember
anyway.
Lenihan was on it somewhere.
Yeah, the Lenihan brothers always had
style.
really cool cars. Like you go back and you see the paint job on the inside and the outside is exactly the same. You see candy paint inside, fresh paint outside. The car always looked $1 million every time it went out. That's my style. I love that.
Yeah. No, we've got.
I never like seeing a car out there look like it's half finished.
I don't know how to explain it. Do you know what I mean though? About these like
yeah, just the styling of the cars.
Have, like
it
the
looks
Polish Drift series and like Russian Drift series and all that. The cars, they look good, obviously, but they look mad like high up and like.
It's like walking into a shop, going to a shopping centre or going to a clothes shop, and just go and you pick the first thing off the shelf you see.
Yeah, it's just.
And you put it all together.
Yeah, it's like they have.
Sometimes it works by mistake, but then other times it doesn't work. And most
I hate
times,
to say it,
most times more than not, it doesn't work.
Yeah, a lot of New Zealand cars like that as well. Obviously, Mad Mike stands out because his cars are always amazing.
Yeah, Mad Mike stands out.
A lot of them, like the best performing cars, like the ones that come to my head immediately, are just visually. That I'm just gone purely visually and style based because that's me personally. Like you're more mechanical and stuff like that. Look like you can talk about the engines and all that. As well. But like you know all about the mechanics. For me, I know a little bit about the mechanics, but like as like into art and graffiti music, I just look. I tend to appreciate the style first and foremost. Not first and foremost, first, and then everything else after that. Like, if the car's good looking, that's why I'm such a big Matt Farrow's fan. A big Matt Farrow's fan. Not that much of a fan. It's why I'm such a big Matt Farrow's fan. It's because his cars, that's what hooked me in. His driving style obviously was amazing and out there, so his actual driving was great. But just the appearance of the cars was like, that's what hooked me in. Like, all the other cars, all the Mustangs looked the same. They all had everything else having the Falcon liveries. And all of a sudden, Matt Farrow's comes along in this thing with like zebra stripes and cheetah print. And you're just like,
out of the car and he has a race suit that looks like a suit.
Yeah,
it's like a tuxedo. Like it's a big.
Well, now, even that was later on. Like even just his first ever Need for Speed car, like was just a slam down. Need for Speed livery, luminous yellow zebra print. I was just like, that is
like even I remember his car when it was green.
Considering like
the green street car, that was amazing.
But just so much style, like, and then obviously his driving style helped. But like that's one of the things that hooks me into a driver. Like so, when I see the European cars, I'm like, there's just some they just don't
looks like a 24-hour touring car or like a Le Mans car.
Yeah, they just always look just off in a weird way. Like whereas a lot of Irish cars, they just like they look like what I'm looking for. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I've noticed the style of cars in Ireland have improved. Definitely, one thing I always remember was last year that the styling of the cars when the fresh cars come out, they improved big time. Like since work wheels and stuff like that are so easy to get now, people are getting them in England and stuff, and they're putting them on their cars, and everything's all legit. And I know I'm gay fanboy thing as regards that whole thing. Like I'm into all the legit wheels and all this stuff.
Not replicas or anything.
It's an appealing thing to me. Like drifting is a visual aspect. Everything is visual. You're sitting on the grandstand, you're watching a car drifting around the place. And
that's what I was going to say. Like as much as
the car looks is a big deal.
Yeah, as much as I tend to put myself down for being like, like it's not about style. It basically is.
It is.
Like it was all about just like drifting at its fundamentals. It's just about showing off, like sliding around the corner.
It's like skateboarding and stuff like that. Like if you're just going up and down the ramps for your class, you look cool. It's just you're brilliant, but sure, like it's all about how you do it, how you present yourself, everything. It's all the presentation.
Like there's some very, very great skateboarders out there, but they look technically awkward.
Yeah,
like they look mad stiff and stuff like that. Like some like the best looking skaters are the guys that are mad like flowy and like flexible, stylish and stuff like that. With it, like so that's a good analogy. But yeah, so like that's basically McKeever. Why do I want to keep saying McQueever? What's a McQueever?
I know, yeah. But his car this year is looking sweet. His driving is going absolutely insane. Every time you go out and you watch him, even last weekend, Global Warfare was on, and he was definitely the fastest one up to the third clip. He was the fastest one through the first, second, third clip all day.
We should, considering where you and Alan come from, give a shout out to the up and comers. So that's obviously Dwayne McCreevy at the high end. Who's like in your own kind of bracket or below, even coming up and coming that you've seen that's been impressive? Is there anybody that you've even noticed that stands out?
Right. Let me think. There is some drivers you see there and they are doing really well. Like, for example, the last series of IADC, the winner, Ryan Morton. He's a really, really tidy driver.
Do you drive a yellow?
No, red R32 Skyline.
I recognise the name immediately as soon as you said
low horsepower, looks really good, presents himself really well, and he drives really well. And that's exactly what you need. You need a driver that's able to go out there. Whatever you have. It doesn't matter if you have tens, hundreds of thousands in your car. If you can drive your car, that's only one part of the parcel. That's the smallest bit. To go out there and make your car look good, yourself look good, present yourself really well, and it just goes really well. It goes back to sponsors again. Sponsors want to be able to sell their product on your car. If you go out there in a snack box, you're not like you're presenting drifting. You want to present the look. You don't want to present like the fact that I was class. I took third in the dry. Who gives a crap? Who cares? It's all about how you look. It is.
I've got a couple more things that I'll throw over to you. See if there's anything else that you want to say. Basically, again, another little thing that I've decided to make a segment. Do you like racing? We've talked this whole time about drifting. Do you like just straight up like racing, grip racing, tracks, Formula 1?
Yeah, I like racing.
Rally or whatever like that. Like.
My brothers used to do, one of my brothers used to do autograss and the other one done rallying. And I was into rallying from a young age. That was basically the first sport I was into. It was just rallying.
You said earlier on, like Colin McRae's your hero, basically.
Yeah, basically Colin McRae was the one person I looked up to, and I'd say after Colin McRae died, it was probably... After that, I was watching my brother rallying, but since he stopped rallying, I stopped looking at rallying. I lost heart for it then. I can still go back and look at it. It's
still like Formula 1, no?
Formula 1, not so much.
I'm big into Formula 1.
I always wanted to be, but I was too lazy.
It is.
No other excuse. I was just too lazy.
It's hard to get into though, because it is like 2 hours, 3 hours, and you need like 70 lap races or something.
Like I love rallycross.
Yeah.
I love karting. Karting's really good too. I really love doing karting because being able to actually, I find like even at rallying.
Are you like Alan? Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, are you like Alan? And Alan says that he doesn't like to really watch so much.
Yeah.
He doesn't really like to sit there and watch, particularly racing. He doesn't like to sit there and watch. He likes racing now. He says like he's on Sims playing racing games all the time. Yeah. He loves actually partaking in it. He just doesn't like to sit there and watch it. Would you be the same way? Like,
yeah, but it's unless it's something way. Like even in drifting, if it's not looking good in front of me, I'm very bored. I am very bored. As ironic as it sounds, I'm into drifting so much, but if it's not appealing to me, it's not appealing to me. I'd rather be behind the steering wheel. I'm a more practical kind of person rather than just watching it. And I do get an enjoyment though watching really good drivers though.
Yeah.
And I enjoy watching really good runs and really good battles. Like that's the part of it. That's exactly what you need to see.
Yeah.
But as regards racing goes, I enjoy doing karting. I love watching rallycross. Even for example, rallycross is probably the next racing thing to me down to drifting. That's really cool to watch because you have 10 cars going into a corner that doesn't fit 10 cars, and they're trying to make it all the way around the corner with like 800 horsepower on them all, and they're just like clashing off each other, spinning wheels.
I have to say,
handbrakes backwards everywhere. It's
I've watched. Mad. If you've never watched a rallycross event, it's amazing. Like it's really, really fun, and especially the way they do it. I don't think like they reverse the grid or something like that as well. Yeah, like that's really fun. My own experience in it with it, aside from watching it, is dirt rally. Yeah, and it's so much fun.
It's so good.
It is so much fun in dirt rally because you have to like the Joker lap thing is something that's a stroke of genius.
Oh yeah,
have to take the Joker lap thing where you have to again really quickly for people listening that don't know, the Joker lap is if say you're doing a 5-lap race. On one of those laps, it doesn't matter when, you can choose when, but you have to take a slightly longer route.
Yes.
There's another external route that you have to take, and sometimes maybe it'll be dirt when everything else is dry, or something like that, basically. Or like you'll have a jump when it's flat or something like that. Like it'll have like just kind of what they call...
It might be quicker, but it doesn't mean that you can't actually take the Joker lap every... I don't think you can take a Joker lap every lap. I'm not sure.
No, you can only take it once. Yeah, you have to. You can only take it once as far as I know, but you have to take it. Like, and it's just it's really cool and it like ties into the strategy. Like a lot of people take it on the first lap to just get out of the way. a lot of people try to build up a lead on their first 4 laps and then take it on the last lap,
Yeah.
just get out of the way. Like, it's very interesting to see how it's done. And then, God forbid, 2 people decide to take the Joker lap at the same time.
And the 2 of them don't.
Because there's one it's in Dirt Rally, and the Joker lap is basically right from the start line. You come to the first corner, you have to go out to the left, and then it's a fairly short, like a fairly easy right, but then it just turns into a sharp right hand corner, sharp left. Ooh, I hope my new shock mount and new mic stand did their job, and you don't hear too much rumble from that. I just hit the microphone. Yeah, but it turns into a sharp right and a sharp left, and it's proper tight, like.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Trying to watch 2 people get through that is mental. Like, it's hilarious. But so that's basically the last thing. Again, that's just like a little segment thing that I'll do with everyone, just to see, because we talk so much about drifting. So the last one is, what's your plans for next year? So you do, from what you've been saying, you seem to like you want to head back into it next year.
Next year, well, the end of this season, the last outing of the car before its little transformation, I'm going to do Festival of Drift, which is on the 2nd and 3rd of September in Killian Hill in Kilkenny. Search it up on Facebook for anyone that's interested. It is Festival of Drift .ie, I think is what it is.
I'll probably leave a link to that.
Probably link to it, yeah. And that'll be a good event. It'll be just like a really fun event to do. Chris Forsberg and Ryan Torek is coming over to do. We're just basically doing challenges like what they do in Network A, basically. And it's going to be really fun. Torqued, yeah. And it's going to be a good event. It's going to be just a little bit of fun in the car before the strip down comes down. And I'll tear down the car, probably paint it up, clean it up, tear all the stickers off, apart from the one stripe down the side, which I will never probably ever take off, because it was the one thing from years back that I remember from cars. But
I was going to say, I seen your stripe in, there's a fella that I've been watching on YouTube a bit, what's his face? Adam LZ.
Yes.
On YouTube. He was at an event where somebody had that same stripe, and I was like, because I knew that, I had a feeling that you were inspired, like, from the 90s or something like that, from like a car that you've seen before, with that specific line.
If anyone's interested, type in Drifter X on YouTube. It's a guy in Japan who has an orangey pearl kind of metallic-y colour 180SX street car, who used to drive for Tanabe and Signal Auto in Japan, and that was the Signal Auto stripe. It went on all the Signal Auto cars and stuff like that, and that was the one thing that I was always just fascinated with. It was such a simple stripe that I loved in every car.
That's like, car that was on. That scratched an itch that I've had for a while to find out what that stripe was about. Like, that's been in my head to be like, I know it's from something. I have a feeling that it's like inspired by something from like the 90s or like that, but I've never been able to like pin it down, pinstripe it down. Damn it, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. But yeah, so you're gonna go for it next year, basically. Yeah,
I'm just gonna do a few changes to the car.
Any plans yet, or is that secret, or not uncertain?
No, basically I just want to make the car a bit more responsive. I don't want more horsepower. I just want more response, so that I'm able to just dance on the throttle like Michael Flatley and sound like a lunatic. Just be able to make the car a bit more fun to drive and not as hard, because it's a hard car to drive. You put the foot down, it doesn't come on full boost till 4,500 revs. That wasn't,
which isn't helpful,
to plan. It wasn't anyone's fault other than myself. But that will be rectified by the end of the season, and come back next year with better tyres, more grip. That means if it's a more responsive engine, it'll be more. That
reminds me, is the thing that we talked about, speaking of tyres, is that a thing that happened, confirmed?
Tyre sponsors?
Yeah.
No, but this video could help that.
That's true. Because I was going to say, because I remember you saying, do you remember we were talking about on Facebook? Specifically. Ages. It was a good while ago now at this stage. We'll probably cut this out.
I think so.
Achilles.
Oh yeah, cut that out.
Yeah, no, obviously.
That was
that's what I said.
Meant to happen, but it was a bit too big of a deal for the tech.
So that's not happening then. That's
yeah.
So is there anything that you felt I was missing? Is there anything that you, because we went over this a while before we started recording, because I just haven't had time to prep questions properly. So if there's anything that you'd like to talk about or mention or like bring up besides like plug-in stuff like sponsors or videos or links or YouTube, if there's anything drifting related or stuff that you just think would be an interesting story or whatever that you'd like to finish on?
As regards as regards drifting IDC this year, keep tuned into the live stream this year. It's IDC is a very kind of underrated thing in the country, considering the amount of viewers, the amount of just exposure that the thing gets, and the amount of talent in the country. It's still very, very much under the cover.
Small, yeah, not a lot of people like.
It's the people that know about it, and maybe the people that might fall into
it's to the
game
point where
like see it.
When you say IDC, like when you first said IDC earlier on, I almost felt like for some reason I had to clarify Irish Drift Championship.
Yeah,
for some reason, like I know people watching this video are gonna know what that is, but like you never know. Like you get some straggler coming in and be like, "Oh, I know about drifting, but like, what's this IDC?
What's
like,
IDC? I don't care."
Yeah. Like they know what sliding cars is, but they don't know the competition and stuff like that.
But keep in tune with it, because it's definitely a thing that's very still underground in the country.
And you'd be surprised by the not surprised, maybe some people probably, but like you'd be surprised by the caliber.
Oh yeah,
like some of the battles when you go to an IDC event, like some of the battles are insane, like a door to door, like both drivers giving it everything.
Like at the weekend,
and we're not talking about what we used to talk about, like a twin cam and E36 or something like that, like completely standard. Like
we're talking about 1,000
we're talking
horsepower
about like
cars,
proper like there's not much difference between these cars and like something in an FD or D1 or something.
Oh yeah, and like only there at the weekend, Global Warfare was on, and fortunately and unfortunately, people are getting bored with the whole unbeaten streak.
I was literally just going to ask. Me and Alan talked about this, and he was like, "I kind of hope it gets beaten."
Yeah, I was hoping it would get beaten too.
I didn't even catch the results. I was in work all week. What happened?
Basically, they're 14 years unbeaten this year.
Yay! The world's most
the last international driver that was at it was beat by Tomas Kiley, Andreas Vasiliauskas, who was an amazing driver. His car is a 1,000 horsepower E46 BMW, which is a thing you have to witness. It's unbelievable to watch. But Tomas Kiley beat him fair and square, and it was an unbeaten streak. And as you could imagine, the internet warriors came along and they all seen it. Just that's always a fix. It was a fix. But to be honest, everyone was waiting for a proper driver to come along that was deserving to actually win.
Well, to be fair, I said to Alan, like we've had Daigo, we've had Robbie Nishida, we've had Phil
Naoki
Morrison,
Nakamura.
we had Nakamura the other year, we had Matt Powers, we've had
Turek,
some good ones.
Chris Forsberg.
Like we've had good drivers.
Yeah, the big people have come over.
Like Daigo's won everything. Daigo, there's nothing competitive worth winning that Daigo's won. He hasn't won IDC.
Say, like,
he hasn't won IDC round 3.
No, he hasn't won IDC round 3. And coincidence enough, when he came for IDC round 3 for Global Warfare 1, Dwayne McKeever actually beat him, and he won.
After
the event.
I love Daigo Saito. Diego Santos is my bae. But also, he knocked out Matt Powers, so I also hate him. Actually, Matt Powers technically knocked himself out. He spun out on his chase run, I think it was.
Yeah, it was disappointing because he was really actually good to watch.
Yeah, the second, like his chase run was doing well as well. Like it looked like it could have gone close at least.
I had a beverage with Matt Powers.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm jealous.
Someone's jelly beside me.
If I'll get to hang out with him one day.
He probably doesn't even remember at all. I don't blame him one bit. But yeah,
probably not if it was the kind of beverage I'm thinking.
But the weekend was basically a testament to the country. It's you have every single driver wanting to come over from all around the world. Alex Hillebrand came over, and he just had a bad event. He just didn't get it. And look, everyone was out there waiting for the streak to be beaten. I was one of them. I was hoping that it would beat this weekend because I'm sick to death of hearing about it. But I suppose that's what makes it.
You'd still hear about it. It's like looking to regain the streak. That's what it'll be. It'll immediately turn from looking to hold on to the streak to looking to regain the streak. They won't just let the streak die. Like
no.
They'll just bring it back.
Oh yeah, it'll come back. It'll start to 1 again. We're 2 years undefeated. But
we just need like Dwayne to switch to like Northern. He's Northern Irish. It's technically different.
North of Ireland.
North of Ireland.
That'd be right. Dwayne
you know what? I was just thinking.
Driver.
I was trying to think of what I wanted. I had a thing that I wanted to say earlier on, and this probably be the last thing then before we go into the thing. I'm super bummed that last year Alan wasn't in Pro-Am. Now this year he is. Now this year you're not Pro-Am and he is. When are we going to see? When am I going to get to see you two go against each other? That's going to be so crazy.
He was actually in my class for an event last year.
Was
he? We were both at the start line talking to each other, and we both got knocked out. But it was just I was dying to get a practice run in with him, a battle or something. I think if it's anything like Forza, it will be just
amazing.
It'll be one to watch.
I can't wait. I presume it will happen.
I, for one, can speak for myself and himself, and I can definitely say that we would definitely not be letting up, and there will be tyre marks.
If you are both there next season, and you get the things that you want to do to the car that you think will make it better, I firmly believe I'll see you against each other next season, because you will eventually at some stage meet, because you'll win your top 16, you'll win the top 16, you'll win your top 8, so on and so forth. You'll meet at some stage, I think.
Oh yeah. And if I mean I get beat by him, of course we'll be back and try and beat him again. Hopefully it'll happen again. Or if he gets beat by me, I'm sure
the Drift Lounge podcast. The Drift Lounge podcast, episode 43. Declan wants to murder Alan. I've brought them both on. Let's talk about it, guys.
There's 2 System 14 drivers, which we call ourselves, will be going up against each other eventually someday. And when it happens, I don't care who's in Mandela. Shit is about to go down. But yeah.
So yeah, that's just the last thing that I wanted to say. So we'll wrap it up with your shilling, your plug-in, your sponsors, your YouTube, Facebook, vlog. You doing anything like that? Like I know Alan was doing a vlog. You should consider doing that as well. They're really interesting.
Yeah,
you've seen Alan's ones?
I am considering doing some sort of a vlog.
Yeah, start with next season. Start from the season. Just throughout the season, however you go on. It'd be really interesting.
Just to show little bits and pieces that people don't get to see behind the scenes, which is really interesting. I love those stuff as well. I just need to go off my ass and suppose do it.
But now this is your shilling stuff, so you have to sit forward and talk into the mic so people hear.
So yeah.
So you got anything like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram?
Facebook page www.facebook.com/Declan Byrne Drifting, or youtube.com/DecoByrne106, DECOBYRNE106. And my Instagram is S14 Deco. So
he's not so good with the branding.
No, it's actually very bad.
There's only one guy on YouTube that I know has worse branding, and I'm going to leave that as an inside joke for the 2 people that might actually ever get that.
We'll leave that to the comments.
Yeah, so if anybody who has worse branding on YouTube, you're a friend of mine. It's an inside joke from a podcast that I watch, so we'll see if anybody gets it. But what was I going to say? Yeah, any sponsors? I don't know. Do your sponsors apply in the off season? Like, is there anybody you want to shout out aside from Stone? Obviously, for helping you out. So much.
You have Stone Motorsport from last year, WKD Imports for transport, Tire Hanger for supplying my tires, Paulius, and all the guys at Tire Hanger were ever so helpful last year and just were always on the ball. You had Mr. Detail.
Keeping the car looking
slick every single round, just helping me just give something to put that car looking slick every single round. You need it. I definitely need it.
Which it did for a black car with just some purple stickers. It stood out. It was a really gorgeous car.
I was proud of how well it looked because of all the help. And yeah, basically just there's like.
Well, you mentioned your dad's shop. You might as well give that a shout out.
Yeah, Declan Byrne and Sons Expert Hardware, Carlo. That's basically where I work, and that's the family business.
That's what keeps the dream possible.
Yeah, that's where I'm only after coming from today.
Yeah, with the funds from that's how you're bleeding paying for all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to give old Papa a show.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's it. That was episode 2. Again, it's long. It's a podcast. I was very specifically going to call it an interview the first time when I was like, I'll bring Alan on for an interview. So then it occurred to me literally midway through the podcast or through the interview to be like, if I call it a podcast, that's a much better idea because people will actually accept sitting down for 2 hours and watching it. Like people will sit down and watch a long form thing if you call it a podcast. Whereas if it's an interview, they might tune out and be like, oh God, look, this is going to go for ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's episode 2 of the Drift Lounge podcast. Episode 3 will be coming. I don't mean to be rude to you and Alan because I don't mean to be like, I've got a huge guest coming up. Like I don't mean that, but it is like it's a big deal for me personally. I'm going to have somebody like that. It's going to be insane to bring on. I will obviously release at a time. I'll probably make a separate standalone video when it's all confirmed and I know I've got it recorded and it's going up and stuff like that, or I know it's definitely happening and it's going up. But yeah, definitely that's something to look out for. Drift Lounge podcast episode 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here. Thanks for watching and goodbye.